And we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of I Said What I Said.
Are we on episode number?
We're not numerating them like that
We've
anymore.
come a long way. That's what I'm trying to establish here.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, Mr. Roby Hollywood. With me is my beautiful co-host, Shanara, in the building. We have a very special guest with us today, Mr. Aaron Ridge. He is a singer, R&B singer, songwriter, and he's going to be a political commentator for the next little couple hours. Aaron and I met in this really funny fashion, so I went to check out a homie of mine, and I run into Aaron and I eavesdrop on a conversation that he was having with a group of people. So I'm kind of listening in. I'm like, damn, this guy is fucking smart. You know what I mean? I need to have him on the show stat. So I just walked up to him, kind of stand out. I was like, hey, brother, listen, man, we don't know each other, but I'm a fan already. I would love to have you on the show. And Aaron was so gracious. He's like, fuck yeah, man. I'll put an afternoon to the side for this, man. How are you, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Welcome to the show, man. Heavy week in the news.
Isn't it always?
It is, man. It is. But hey, you know what? That allows us to be able to do this, right? Because if there is nothing to talk about, then what's the point of any of this, right?
But that is why there's news. That's why they dig up dirt, or else so ratings could go up, so that they can still have news.
Talk
right?
on it.
That's very true.
So you were just feeding into. You're just feeding into it. Babe.
It's true. We can't act like news is completely benevolent. You're right. That's
No,
fair.
no.
They're totally there just to they're making a dollar, which is why.
I mean, news is not even like news anymore. It feels like it's just opinions being tossed around. It feels like it's so divisive now that you don't really even know if you're really getting all the facts. Like everybody gives
you know you're not.
Oh yeah,
You are never getting all the facts.
Everybody gives you the facts that just fit their narrative,
you
right?
gotta watch like 3-4 news stations to get an entire story if you really want it.
You know what's so funny? I was having this conversation with my dad over Christmas. So he caught me watching Fox News and he lost his mind. He's like, "What?
Oh, yeah, I remember.
You watch
Both?
Fox News? Is this Sean Hannity inside my house? I cannot allow for this."
That's fair.
No,
I
I think he said you watch CNN and Fox News.
Yeah, I do.
And you're like, yeah, I do, so I can get both opinions. He's like, what?
Yeah, he was shocked. He was shocked. But like you kind of have to though in this day and age, because now it's like it's everything is in a court of public opinion, right? Like everybody has a narrative. Everybody has a point that they want to get across, and they want to kind of poke people into their own boats, and they would tell you it's like you get this. It's funny, like you watch Fox News and then you watch CNN, right? And they will be talking about the same story, but the way that they dissect it, everybody seems to make sense. I swear to God, Sean Hannity makes sense to me sometimes. He's an insane human being.
That's fair.
But he makes sense to me sometimes, man. So yeah, heavy week in the news, man. The Commonwealth of Virginia is falling apart. You gotta know if you guys heard about this. Like, this shit is insane. So the governor of Virginia, so it all started a couple weeks ago when the governor of Virginia, his name is Ralph Northam.
Okay.
So he got into the public eye because Virginia just passed this new abortion law, which pretty much says, and this was the craziest thing I ever heard. So pretty much they're allowing abortion up to the last trimester.
Okay.
So this guy goes on the radio and he's like, and the radio host asked him a question about like, so you're saying that if the baby comes out alive, there is still an option to abort it. He's like, yeah, this is exactly how it's gonna go down. So the baby will be given birth, and if it needs to be resuscitated, he will be resuscitated, and then the doctor and the mom are gonna have a conversation about how to proceed forward. So people lost their shit.
That's so extreme.
It is very extreme.
Like that's kind of like the problem I have with the general news media. Like, and this is why I was telling you I got media burnout with the news because like I got tired of things like this where people go, well, what, like, you give a general law, like, yeah, you can have abortions for past the first trimester.
Right.
And people go, wait, you mean you can have an abortion anytime? You'd be like, yeah. Like, what if the baby's about to be born? Yeah, you can still abort the baby at that point because this law allows for that, even though it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, but I feel like
it's super extreme, and it's and it's just something that you can just whip people into like a frenzy.
Oh my God!
For no reason, which is what
they want.
Yeah, which is what, and it's something that right wing media is really really good at.
Yeah.
Because these media.
Which
these
one
media,
is right wing?
Right wing is like Fox News, like conservatives,
okay. etc. Yeah. So like the conservative media is really good at taking like the most extreme version of
events
of
and
an
just
event,
yeah,
and being like, look how bad this is. They want to literally kill a baby.
Yeah,
and the left, and then the left wing, the liberal side is, it's weird because I mean, nobody who's podcasting can see what I'm doing, but I actually just motioned with my left hand to say right now, say left, which was weird. I have to correct that for my own self right now. But the right-wing media is really good at doing that, and the left-wing media is really, really good at making whatever the right-wing media is upset about look really dumb.
Really dumb,
They make it, like, they're really good at it.
Yeah.
But and they're really good at it to the point where it's really, really condescending.
Yeah. And that's why I feel like a lot of people say that's why Trump got elected, because there is this uppity thing that the left has, where they, there was that whole thing where Hillary Clinton called Trump supporters a basket of deplorables, right? There is this kind of like, the left is more educated. It's more,
it's true.
The left typically, and the thing is, the left typically is more educated. The left, and I'm. As somebody who leans left, I'm very much a left-wing person myself. Right. But I'm being forced to realize, after looking at not one now, but two elections where this has happened, because it happened in the States with Trump, and it happened here with Doug Ford. Right. And both times it happened, everybody went, how could this happen?
Right.
But all the way through all of these campaigns, all the left-wing people did was go, you'd have to be a goddamn idiot to vote for this person. Yeah. And that's all we did for like a full 3 years of Trump's gaining traction. Was just like people being like, that's really dumb. Who's gonna vote for Trump?
I know.
That's really dumb. Who's gonna vote for Trump? Holy fuck, who voted for
everyone?
Voted for Trump? Yeah. 53% of people.
It's a lot of people.
But that's weird. Like,
it's
isn't
not
that something fishy?
It isn't though. It isn't.
Everybody doesn't want to vote for Trump, and like what you said about Doug Ford, I actually totally forgot about that. When he got, I didn't think he was going to win, and
he
I
got
thought Catherine was going to win.
Everybody thinks that, but then
so it's like, who voted for him if this was like
people who don't talk about it?
Yeah.
Because here's what happens. What happens is the left likes to make fun and like to belittle the other side of things.
Right.
The right, and you'll notice this if you go on like even a Facebook flame war. People are on the left who swing left are always willing to say this, that, and the third is wrong, and then when you ask them why it's wrong,
they can never explain it.
No. It's not even that they can't explain it; it's that they don't want to, because people on the left are always more likely to look up the information
to be
on their own.
Entitled.
Right?
No, but see, to me,
and they can be entitled. It's true, but like people on the left tend to be like, I looked up this information. You should look up this information.
Right.
Like a lot of the stuff I know about politics, about history, about economics, I went and I sought out that information personally, so that I could understand things, so I could have a conversation and be and be competent in it. So now a lot of people will go, well, because I did that, you should do that, and they become unwilling for whatever reason to share the information. Now, there's difference, because there's some people who are like, okay, well, it's actually triggering for me to share this information, or it's emotionally exhausting for me to share this information. But everybody's not like that. A lot of people are hopping on the bandwagon saying, hey, guess what? We don't got to explain shit anymore.
Yeah, but
guess
you know
who's
what,
willing to explain shit?
The right.
The right is always willing to explain.
And that's where the problem comes in, because the left has this thing where they have
where you should find out on your own.
They have completely killed civil discourse. Like, it's either you are with us or you are against us. And to the point where, like, universities used to be places, for example, where people could disagree and have an intellectually honest conversation about their disagreements and come to kind of some sort of center. Now we're living in this world where political correctness and this sense of entitlement has gotten so high that like people are not even willing to even contemplate why the other person feels the way that they do, and that's supposed to be the pillar of democracy.
I don't think that's necessarily true. I think that in a lot of cases people don't feel like they want to understand the other side, but I think that in more cases people do, especially on the left. A lot of people on the left do understand the right side, because the right side is never like, if you look at, for instance, Trump's campaign, or even Doug Ford's campaign, or any like conservative campaign, it's not that it's especially complex. It's not that it's especially hard to understand. It's designed to be easy to understand. It's designed to be extremely palatable and understand.
Isn't that the thing that he said about Trump? Is he puts it like it is?
He tells it air quote like it is.
Yeah.
He didn't really tell anything like it was.
No, he's not saying anything.
His teeth for
For
almost a full 5 years straight.
Yeah, the man is insane.
I mean, and that's being generous, because he's been lying through his teeth since like the late 80s. But anyways.
Yeah. So as I was saying, so the Commonwealth of Virginia is coming to a crumble. So it started when, hold on one second. Let me bring up his name again. Rolf.
The
governor. So what happened is, so the governor goes and makes a statement on TV, on radio, about the whole abortion thing. And now you have these so he's a Democrat. You have these conservative hawks.
Really?
Yeah. The governor of Virginia is a Democrat.
That is surprising.
You know what though? Like people's like Virginia is a bit of a weird state where, you have it's a southern state, quote unquote, but because of that influence, because it's so close to Washington, the whole Washington hub, it's very liberal influence. So anyway, this guy, now you have these conservative hawks that go digging, and they find this medical school yearbook picture where he is in blackface.
Of course they do.
Standing next to a dude in a KKK garb. Yep. First of all, I didn't even know medical school had yearbooks. I didn't even know that was the things like, ain't y'all grown? Like, what the fuck? Y'all got yearbooks and shit? But then, so this is what happens though. So listen how, to me, I don't know if this guy got set up or he's just a fucking idiot.
I mean, probably both.
No, but check this out. This is what happens. So this dude goes on TV when the picture comes out and he apologizes. He's like, you know what? This was in the 80s, right? The picture was taken in 1984. So he's like, you know what? I'm so sorry. This was, this was a thing that was, I regret it. All these type of things. The next day, so now everybody starts calling for his resignation, right? So now the bottom has fallen out. Everybody starts calling for his resignation. The next day, he goes on TV and is like, oh, after looking at the picture thoroughly, I don't think it's me. I don't think it was me.
Wait.
No, this is insane, bro. It's an insane situation.
Okay. First point. It is way too easy to find white men in blackface nowadays. Like, is this just a thing? Like, I don't know. Do you have white listeners? Of course. Are y'all just doing blackface casually? Like, how casual an occurrence? Is it like a thing? Is it like brunch where like niggas didn't really get into it, and white people been doing it forever, and now we're just kind of finding out about it? Like,
I think it's way too late to kind of retract what you said.
You said, I'm sorry for
posting in the public eye, and we all expect you to be intelligent.
That's not even the worst part.
Listen. We expect you to be intelligent as well. So if you were on the opposite end and you were prosecuting somebody that seems like they're an unreliable witness, you'd call it out. So he's kind of like having that same type of energy where he realizes that he's just sinking more and more in this shit. And what can he do to save himself? Because people are probably just calling him a racist, threatening his job and his life. So maybe apologizing and owning up to that, he realizes that he's going to face the consequences of it. But we all need to think about where it came from. Yeah, maybe right now your favorite, friend that so happens to be Caucasian, whatever, if she puts on blackface, you may not take it as offensive.
No, I'm gonna. She can go.
Yeah.
Right?
If I catch you in white in blackface,
why it's offensive though? Let's address why it's offensive.
No, let's actually break this down, because it actually keeps getting worse. So this guy is like, okay, so it wasn't me in the picture, but he's like, however,
However, once in the 70s, I did put on blackface for a dance contest where I was pretending to be Michael Jackson. Okay? Now, funny story is this. As he's giving the press conference, one of the journalists is like, so can you still moonwalk? Tell me how my man almost gets off the podium and almost breaks into a moonwalk, and then his wife just stops him, and she's like, "Yo,
are so willing
like it's the
like,
most."
I swear I'm not racist. Watch me moonwalk.
Watch my moonwalk.
That doesn't prove anything.
So
That
his
would have
wife-
been so funny. I wish she never said anything. She was just like, in better circumstances. Or
No, she's like,
something
"Oh,
that.
these are inappropriate
Yeah,
circumstances for you to do this."
inappropriate
Like his wife had to stop him. The man was looking down. So
How embarrassing is that?
now this
Did
gets
did he do the hand thing? Did he grab his crotch?
he almost did. He was almost.
Was he in moonwalk position?
He was no. He almost
was
like he
walking
almost broke
away.
into a worm, and like he was walking away trying to, like, you know what I mean, bust it down for the.
He first hesitated, like, should I do this? But then he was like, ooh,
I'm about to. He had that
I mean,
smile on his face.
To be honest, that would have been a smart move, because that would have spit like
That would have been the terrible.
Hear me. It would have been a smart move, because it would have completely detracted from what he was getting upset.
I don't know, bro.
I feel
This
like
guy.
if he's like, first of all,
people would have been like, you're willing to do that to show then something must be wrong with you.
you say that, but people are so hilariously easily distracted.
Yeah.
That, like, if you do a moonwalk at a press conference, now this press conference is about you doing the moonwalk.
I guess you're changing the narrative. Yeah, you can spin it.
But now you're a meme, as
Yeah.
opposed to being somebody who's being called to quit his job, basically.
Yeah.
You know, like, he's being called to resign from office.
No, but
So, like, if you're being called to resign, you better do the goddamn
Yeah,
moonwalk.
But see,
Not a
to me, like,
hashtag.
it would have been way less of a problem if this guy had not decided to do this 360 turn. Just take it to the face and keep
if
it
that's
moving.
the route you choose, then
But
take
but
it.
so this whole thing gets even worse.
Oh,
Okay,
it-
so
okay.
his lieutenant governor is this black guy named. What's his name? His name is Fairfax, something like Jason Fairfax or something like that, right? So this guy is supposed to be the one taking over for him if this guy resigns. 2 days later, some bitches come out of the woodworks and they're like, you know what? This nigga, at the last Democratic conference, we started making out willingly, and then somehow he forced me to suck his dick. This shit just quickly
Remember
fucking
what
spiraled.
she said? She also said, I don't know what I could have done to make him think that what he did was consensual, but it was not.
But it was not. So
But
she
we
comes
were
out.
kissing.
So she comes out. Now the lieutenant governor, who's also a Democrat, is on shaky boards. The third guy in line is I think he's like some sort of city councilman who's supposed to be taking over after that. This guy realizes that shit is getting real. He comes out and he's like, oh, by the way, me too. In the 70s, I also dressed in blackface for a rapping contest where I was pretending to be Curtis Blow.
You know who they need? They need R. Kelly's publicist, because I don't understand how they're taking so much media wrong turns right now. Like,
That is
insane.
not surprise. It's not. I wish it was insane. I wish it was anything other than what I would expect of middle-aged white men / like slightly like.
Right.
That's the thing. The amount of people who are getting booked for doing blackface is so staggering and it's so, like, ingrained apparently in, like, that, like, in that, like, Ivy League culture, because, like, that's who it always is. It's always these Ivy League schools where you see, oh, well, Harvard, they busted some fraternity in Harvard for doing this thing, or they busted some fraternity in Oxford for doing this thing, or they busted some sorority in, like, Princeton for doing this racist thing. It's always these big, prestigious schools.
Yeah.
And what that leads me to believe,
It's a culture that has been.
I have to believe then that if it is these big prestigious Ivy League schools that are continually and consistently from then till now getting caught doing these things, that it must be a part of.
It's condoned. It's part of the culture.
It's not even just condoned. It is a part. It is possibly integral. To, like it's not.
But you know what though, bro?
Like, catching people doing, which is,
you know what? I don't think it's just like, I remember, like, for example, like I went to Brock University, right? And back in like 2008, 2009, when Lil Wayne was really popping off, you know how many white girls was going out for Halloween dressed as Lil Wayne?
Yeah.
And see, to me, like, see, you know what's so crazy? To me, when it comes to blackface,
Just
it's
because white girls were doing it doesn't make
no,
it
it doesn't
right.
make it right.
No,
but
100%.
let me get to the point that I was trying to make. The point I was trying to make is, like, see, to me, for example, I'm free range. I like to call myself a free range nigga. Like, I'm African born. You know what I'm saying? I came here when I was 17. So I have somehow a different relationship with blackface. Like, it's I get offended by it now as a question of like solidarity. I guess solidarity.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? But I don't have like, it doesn't have
ramifications.
like, it doesn't trigger me in the way that some people seem to be like, you know, shaken out by it.
Well, yeah.
Right? Like, to me, yeah, I know it's racist, quote unquote, but it's never been that thing that kind of.
It's not something that you've had to like deal with on a first hand. Like,
yeah,
it's
like
not,
I've never,
it's not,
like I remember seeing, like, yeah, these kids, like in
Well,
you know, in
you-
university, you know, they will buy those, you know, those hats with the dreads, and
Yeah.
they put like a little blackface on. Like, I never was like, yo, what the fuck? Like, you know what I mean? You never brought that out of me. So I just.
Well, the reason why it's offensive is because we, and I say we because we're all black people and we need to stick in this together, is when I say we, because we were not able to act in movies. We were not able to be on screen. Only white people were able to be on TV. And whenever a black person needed to be portrayed, they would dress him, put tar on his face and put black paint on his face and have him act out the most, like, convey him in the worst way, as a way to like say that this is who black people are. We were never portrayed in a positive light. We were always negative, and in the media all the way back from when we were not even allowed to be on TV. So there was a white person playing us, putting on a blackface. So that's why it's offensive. That's why if somebody, you know, took a picture, like these guys were all racist. They all had a state of mind, especially back in the day where it was so prevalent. So of course, if you see a picture from like, you know, 20 plus years ago, and he has blackface on, you're gonna be like, okay, this is racist. He was ignorant, and he was doing something that was ignorant to offend black people. So do I think he should be in office? No, I think he should definitely be held accountable for what he did. Like, unfortunately, the game like that they're in is that they dig up dirt on you and blackmail you and use it against you. But I guess that's the game. But like, if we do not hold him accountable, then we're kind of saying that it's okay to act like this. It's okay to be disrespectful and be racist and portray African Americans in a negative light, and there not be any repercussions to that. So, and
I think the key phrase there is African Americans as well, because blackface is far more impactful from an African American standpoint,
Right.
Because of slavery and because of things like minstrel
Jim
shows,
Crow,
which are even before Jim Crow, and even before we were on television, before anyone was on television, when there were minstrel shows, which was basically the same idea, and like they'd have black people shuck and jive, and they'd have black people do all these things to make ourselves look lesser, right?
Corny, yeah.
For the sake of white entertainment.
Right.
And then once television came around, it was all, they had white people imitate black people imitating black people. So that's what blackface is. It's like the most base caricature. Like it's like not even, to say that it's not a good to say that it's a poor representation is to like grossly under
Right.
like under exaggerate it.
Right.
Like,
I don't know, but see, to me, like, I feel like, okay, I get the point being made, but how do we deal with it now? Because I feel like there's a certain group of people who are trying to use this thing in their own favor without really, I don't feel like the interest of, you know, black people are not really, because if you look at, let's say, for example, right, if you look like, you know, like you have all these Democrats running for office and they're all kind of like really distancing themselves and all these type of things. Okay, Mazel tov, that's fine. But I find that now in this day and age, there is this thing where I kind of really have to doubt the motives of the people who are bringing it up. Because, okay, so how do we deal with it going forward? Because now we live in a society where we almost trying to outrage each other, right? I'm more outraged than you are. Because if we're going to talk about blackface, then let's talk about Tyler Perry in drag, right? When he is playing Medea, right? Now transgender or like, you know, people who who are cross-dressing as a way to kind of like whatever express themselves.
Like drag queens.
Yeah, like drag queens and all these type of things.
Drag is also a real thing. Like people dress in drag.
Right. So where do we draw the line?
It's true. He's not drag.
No, but Medea is a little bit extreme. Like that is drag. That is drag. He's dressed as a woman doing.
Medea is not drag. It's a different thing.
So
it's
no. He's dressing.
It's a close
as a
concept
woman
because it's something that in the media black men have done for. At least decades.
So see, that's where the problem comes in, because I feel like there is this double standard where again it comes as the same thing where there is this double standard where if black people are doing it then it's okay, then we draw the line.
What do you mean, Mrs. Doubtfire? It's the same thing.
Yeah. So again, the question that I'm asking is like where do we draw the line? Because see, to me, let me tell you something.
We draw the line at blackface.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So it's about race.
No, but see,
not even necessarily when it's about race, but when it's about something that is pointedly malicious. Now, Tyler Perry dressing up as Medea is not pointedly malicious, nor is Mrs. Doubtfire pointedly malicious.
Yeah, they're innocent old ladies.
Blackface from the jump is malicious. There is no nice blackface. There has not ever been a nice blackface. It has always been something to put down black people. That's why
you're gonna tell me that when Jimmy Kimmel, there is this video of Jimmy Kimmel dressed in blackface where he darkened his skin.
I actually don't like that nigga at all. I'll fight him if I saw him.
I'll fight him if I see him, right?
I won't fight him.
Would you say that Jimmy Kimmel was maliciously trying to malign black people?
Talking about. So he was dressed up in blackface.
No, he was like he was doing this character where he painted his face black, and he was playing this character same way as Dave Chappelle when he does whiteface.
Not the same, because whiteface is a thing that black people do to get jobs. Every time I answer the phone and say, "Hello, my name is AJ. How can I help you?" That's whiteface. It's the same. It's the same idea, because blackface is not just a physical painting of your face. Because even when you look at you remember the movie Dumbo?
Dumbo. What, like the cartoon?
The cartoon.
Yeah.
The Disney cartoon. Yeah. Do you remember the Crows?
Oh,
the Jim Crows?
It was that Jay-Z video.
There was a crow named Jim Crow. There was a crow, and they were talking. They would talk in jive. Well, I done seen about everything. If I see an elephant fly, that song.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? There was a Jay-Z
those
video.
Were white people.
Yeah.
That was blackface.
Mocking.
But it was white people being like, "This is what black people sound like."
Yeah.
It was the same. So it's the same concept.
So how do we change it? Is the route in which that we're taking this idea of being outraged and tweeting out and doing this? Is this how? Because to me, I've never been a believer in protesting. I really do truly believe that the only thing that the system understands is the dollar. And the only reason why blackface is a thing now, and let's say, for example, if you look at it, right, how is it that you explain that there is teams like the Washington Redskins that have
racist as shit?
Yeah, it's racist as shit. But why is it that it doesn't change? If you listen to the news, right? Especially in election years, right? They would talk about like, oh, Donald Trump got this much of the black vote, he got this much of the Hispanic vote. They never say anything about the native vote. You know why? Because until you are making an impact on the pocket of the white man, nothing changes. If you look at the history of black people,
the joke is they don't have to care about the native vote. They dealt with how many natives
that's why we still have the Washington Redskins. So to tell you the point that like protesting this and going on TV and crying about it does not change anything. If you look at the history of black people, right?
It's not true. There is a substantial history of protest changing things. And there is a substantial history.
Okay,
of it.
let me get this point across, because I actually want you to address it, because let me get this point across that we're trying to make, because I just want to, because to me, I like to think of myself as a student of history, right? Mm-hmm. If I look at it, is when has change ever really happened for black people. I'll tell you why. And I had time to really kind of like observe it and realize when things actually really did change for us. Okay, if you look at it, right? So black people, when we first came to this continent, right? We come at the bottom of boats,
but yeah,
right? Sorry,
came is generous.
Yeah, well, yeah. When we were told that we're going for a ride, but when black people first came to this continent, they came at the bottom of boats, in chains and everything, right? It took history says that it took 400 years for some guy named Abraham Lincoln to be like, oh, why is Kunta's foot always bleeding, right? They try to tell you that slavery ended because white people felt bad. That's not true.
No, 100%.
Slavery,
it's not true. It was economically
it was yeah, exactly. It was the North, which was much more industrialist. The South was going to secede because it depended on that free labor, right?
The North depended on it too. The North just didn't realize it depended.
No, but the South was ready to secede because they don't want to keep paying these.
Secede. That's the Civil War, yeah.
Right. So, but look at it. So, but slavery ending was not because, again, it was a question of money. Fast forward to the 1960s, right? We are, doing sittings in restaurants. We're sitting at the back of the bus. We're using different doors. What happened? Like we protested, but real change started happening when black people got together and did things like boycotting the bus. So the guy who owns the bus company,
but that was a protest.
But see, again, but that's a protest that has to do with money. It's not your little picket fences and your whatever, but you're crying your Black Lives Matter bullshit.
But that's 100% what happens, because there's two parts to every protest. There's the spreading of the awareness, and then there's the financially impacting stuff.
Acting on
and you remember, taking up space in places like that does financially impact them.
No, but that's the black dollar is what changes it. It's not you sitting in a restaurant or blocking traffic.
But the black
dollar,
what I mean?
It's controlled by the white man.
Not even just that, but the black dollar is not so all powerful that it can't be offset. Because if you want to say that we can just, we don't like a thing, we boycott a thing. We boycott things all the time, and they still continue to succeed.
No, but we don't. We say that we do, but we don't. No, we don't. Like, look at it this way, okay? Like, this is in the 60s, right? Fast forward to the 90s. Now we run culture. Now we dictate what's cool. We're the curators of cool, right? With the advancement of hip hop. Now you have a man like, remember Kramer on Seinfeld? Remember that? Yeah,
I remember.
He goes on stage and he says the N word a couple times, and this guy just fucking disappears out of the ether.
He was already disappearing out of the ether. Like, it's easy for us to finish it. Kramer, you mean to tell me Kramer was doing a whole lot before that happened? When was the last time?
No, the guy wasn't the biggest. Seinfeld is the biggest syndicated show of all time. Was the biggest
show up until a point, but like it was over already.
It was over. But to this day, it's still one of the biggest.
But Mod still plays.
But when is our interest going to be protected? Like, it's like every time something happens in our community, we have to roll over and we have to succumb what's coming to us. Like, everyone else's is protected. You understand? Like, you can't say a lot of things about, the transgender community. You can't say this, and like the Islam community, they're being protected. You understand?
Well, there are also black transgender people and black Islamic people. Yeah, so it's not entirely true, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But like, is what I'm trying to say is like everybody is being protected, but we as like, because we are seen as ratchet or rowdy, we could just roll over and succumb what's coming.
No,
to us.
I disagree. Nobody survives racism nowadays. Nobody survives racism.
100% they do. Are you kidding me?
Yes, they do. Things like, what do we do here? We have to. What do we do here? We can't hold these people accountable for their racist shit because they run the society and they're powerful. I don't really feel like that is fair. Like,
but yes, you can. Look at it this way, okay? Rick Ross lost a $20 million endorsement over a song that he did where he's talking about.
You don't even know it.
Yeah, you didn't know it, right? You remember that?
Yeah.
And he says like, I put Molly in her champagne.
Yeah,
she didn't know it.
First of all, she didn't even know it. I remember the line.
Why women go and they stand in front of the Puma office as if Molly is a date rape drug. I never seen anybody getting that.
I feel like anytime you put a drug in somebody's drink and they didn't know it, you date rape drug them. That's okay. I guess ibuprofen.
Have you ever been high off Molly?
I've been high off Molly, but it's not enough for me to get like, swindled into a corner and having whatever the fuck happened.
You say that, but those
until
buds,
it's Rick Ross.
It makes me horny. Like, I'm speaking from experience. Molly makes me horny. Like, you understand?
But it's not like you ain't even know it though. Like you like
no. But you were being manipulated.
Her,
yeah, you're being manipulated. She was in that lyric. If you're gonna talk about it, then if you put Molly, which is a drug that we've just heard, makes you horny, right? In somebody's drink, and they don't even know it. They didn't know it. So they didn't know. And now all of a sudden, I'm horny.
The line that outraged, I wasn't
trying to fuck you. I got Molly in my drink. I didn't even know it. And now I fucked you. I didn't want to do that. You literally drugged me to make me have sex with you.
But that is rape. The line that outraged was, I took her home and I enjoyed that. She didn't even know it. I highly doubt she didn't even know it. I highly doubt she didn't know it though.
You can't be fucking someone and they not know.
That's called rape. No, but that's just called rape.
But like, how do you not know?
That's just rape. So yes, 100% he lost money off of it.
Excuses for everybody.
No, I'm not. Okay, look, let's go back. Let's go back to the conversation.
Listen to my take on this, because everybody got to say what their opinion was on the whole Rick Ross thing. Like, he is in the public eye, so like what he says influences the culture. So that's why he had to be held accountable for what he said. Because if everybody feels like they could be, putting things in people's drink and they didn't even know it, and they think it's cool because this guy's famous, he's rich, he's wearing the latest Yeezys, it's cool, he's getting away with it, I could do it too. That's the society that we're in. Trump is saying all this ignorant shit, I could do it too. This person's getting away with this, I could do it too. So when you're in the public eye and you're rich and you're famous and you have all these fans listening to you, there's going to be a large fraction of people that may believe that that is okay. So that's why I agree with you,
but the point that I was trying to make is for Puma to take their money away, again, it shows the influence of, because like, how many white women were actually buying those Rick Ross fucking was it Puma or was it Adidas? I can't even remember. Is it Puma? No. But like how many? But like the point that I'm trying to say is this corporations. Okay, the only way to make change, right? So let's say, for example, I want to have a law put into place that makes blackface illegal. Instead of me going on the middle of Young and Dundas and laying in the middle of traffic and making people late, how about next time I'll go to, let's say, Roots. I know Roots, it finances the next MP who is going to be running my district. I go to Roots as a people, we're like, yo, unless you sponsor our person that is going to put these things in place, we're going to boycott your merchandise. These corporations are quick to listen. They don't fuck around.
They're quick to listen. They listen eventually. And they're starting to listen now more, but they don't listen. They haven't historically listened to anybody.
No, but see, now we live in the age of social media. Things like these corporations can see how people feel about them to their face right away.
Up until recently, it hasn't really been a thing. But as of late, literally because of millennials and because of how millennials spend their money, it's different now. Because millennials are a demographic that spend for a cause. Millennials don't just purchase, because we are the first generation that is of the information age. So we're the first generation that, I don't know about this company, I can look up this company, I can find out everything about this company from its inception until today. I can find out who runs it, I can find out who runs it wears on a Thursday, I can find out all of that shit. And because of that, because I have that unprecedented amount of information, right, I can make a more informed purchase decision. Because of that, literally now you see companies starting to listen, and you see companies starting to pay attention to things like that, which is why you see things like the Gillette commercials and stuff like that, because people want to be on the side.
Was that not insane? Like that Gillette commercial?
It was a fantastic commercial.
I don't know, bro.
It was a great commercial. I loved that commercial. It was good.
What was the commercial?
Gillette put out a commercial about maybe a month and a half ago. It was about toxic masculinity and deconstructing that and being like, because
commercial was lit.
And it's great because
like that make you think and make you like really recalculate your perspective on life.
I just feel like it's a dangerous approach, though. I feel like there's a whole entire group. No, look. ostracizing the white male.
How did it
the
ostracize
white? No,
them?
it is ostraciz. Because
How?
look, it is because look, there is this thing where okay, I'll give you an example. We were talking about it like the other day about like those like you have one cop do one bad thing, and as a community we adopt fuck the police.
100%,
right?
Fuck the police, gang.
Okay, listen, but see,
That's
that's
not
a
what the
very
commercial was
very
saying.
dangerous approach to
It's
things.
not.
Because
The police are a dangerous approach. If police approach me, it's
that is called
dangerous.
that is called
Commercial.
identity politics.
It's
Identity
not.
politics
Police
never
are
solves
dangerous
anything.
to black people.
That is not
period.
true. I'm a black man, and I can tell you this: I've never had a bad experience with a cop ever. I've been arrested a few times. You know what I'm saying? And I never had a bad experience with. But see, the point that I'm trying to make is this: look, I know that there are, like, for example, when people talk about police brutality, right? You are not going to solve the problem by burning your fucking neighborhood down, right? But that seems to be our approach. We seem to be, always jumping to the far extreme. How is your grandmother taking 3 buses to go get her groceries now solve the motherfucking problem?
What do you?
But see,
what?
No, think about it. What happens
What are you
most of the time?
talking about?
A young black kid gets shot. What do? We riot. Right? We riot
protest.
and we burn.
The
We
first-
riot.
the
We
first
burn our own
actual
neighborhoods.
riot- the first actual riot was what, like 2013, like a handful of years ago. Like
No.
like
This goes
nonviolent-
way back. Look at Watts.
saying is-
Look at Watts in the '60s.
Okay,
Look at the
in the
look at
60s.
the whole,
What I'm saying is since the 60s, like
When
nonviolent
was the
protest
latest one?
has been the thing that people have been pushing for literally 40 years until like the Black Lives Matter came around.
exactly.
came
You
back.
have Antifa now. You have all this.
Yeah,
look, okay.
because you know what works better than non-violent protest? Violent protest.
Violent protest never gets you anything. Listen.
Always. First of all, the American experiment was a violent protest. The Civil War was a violent protest. Almost every civil war is a fucking violent protest.
But see,
violent
now it's-
protests
but
turn
see,
into
that-
wars,
that-
and they fucking work.
That worked.
Cuba had a
I don't
violent
think they
system.
work.
Cuba had a violent protest when they switched from being a dictatorship to being what's it called? Violent protests turn into civil wars.
But see, that's
That-
the problem. That's the
that-
problem with
Okay,
liberals.
but-
That is the
but
problem with
that's
liberals.
not
You
what
want,
we're
you
talking
want to take away guns, but you also want to be able to put yourself and be like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna be able to give violence. Because see, the problem is we need to bring back civil discourse. You don't have to agree
But
with
you don't
how
want
I
protest,
feel.
though. You don't want protesting.
But protesting is look. There is levels to this thing, right? When you are now willing to hear the other side out, right? Like you gotta ask yourself, right? Why is it that somebody would be so fucking extra about a Confederate statue, right? For us, we look at it; it's a non-starter. There is no conversation, and I get it. Yes, it's wrong, but not willing to be able to convince that person. That's the problem with liberals nowadays. It's this idea that, oh, if you do not agree with me, you are a racist, you are this, you are that. But see, you don't understand.
No, but that depends on what you're talking about. If you do not agree with me when we're talking about the fact that there's a racist statue, and the statue is racist because the statue celebrates a racist, which makes it a racist statue.
Right.
If you have a guy and you're like, hey, this guy owned slaves, was for slavery, fought in a
that's
war
what
to
he
keep
believes in.
slavery.
Yes,
He is,
I agree with you. That
And you wanna
statue should
celebrate.
come down.
Let him
So if you
vote.
celebrate, if you want to celebrate, which is what a statue is, it is commemorative, it is celebratory.
Yeah.
You want to celebrate a racist person with a statue that is a racist statue now, and you want to say that it is just a historical piece of it's just a historical work and it's important to the culture of whatever city or whatever state or whatever country you're in. It's racist shit. Now imagine if you had Nazi symbolism in
Exactly.
Nazi
People would be
Nazi
losing it.
propaganda
Right.
hanging out in Germany. You'd be like, what? No Nazi.
That's
You
why
can't
I'm
put
saying-
Nazis.
Look,
That's
I'm
why
not
that's-
disagreeing.
No, listen, that's why I say
If you put
every-
up, yeah, sorry.
That's why I say a lot of other cultures, their interests are being protected because we don't have that same energy. If we were to freaking shed light on how Hitler is so amazing, and if you really dig into your research, you will be surprised of what you find. I don't know if it's true, but supposedly Hitler really hated them because they were the fake Jews. That's what I found when I was doing research. I'm not saying that what
They
he
were
did
what,
was
sorry?
right.
They were what? They were
He
what?
said that they were the fake Jews. So
Fake
that's
Jews. What do you mean?
like the real Jews were black and they were white. So he's saying that they were the fake Jews. Like when I was doing my
there's no way
research
because Hitler was also mad racist
Hitler,
against black people.
Yeah, he hated black people too.
Hitler-
There's no way everything.
I'm not saying
But
that
yeah.
it was true, but everybody has their own.
You can find
madness
information to back up whatever you're looking for, 100%.
You could always find up, information to, like, in their eyes, that's what they seen as okay because they're going through something, right? But if we celebrated that. If we celebrated that, if we put a statue of Hitler, like he was a great dictatorian, he was a great person, whatever, there would be so much people that were offended. So how come we should celebrate, Make America Great Again hats? How come we need to celebrate blackface? How come we need to celebrate all of these things throughout history that were meant to keep black people down? Why should we be celebrating them and be okay
I'm not
with
saying,
them today?
the
if
point,
there's not any other statues of any other race that was put through like a lot of discrimination, like Hiroshima, if we're not shedding light, finding positivity in those tragedies, then we should not be finding positivity in these tragedies. Like
the point
like
is not
blackface
finding positivity. Okay, I think you guys are missing my point. The point is not missing positivity. The point is allowing for civil discourse.
But the problem
forcing
is,
your agenda on someone.
It's not forcing.
No.
The problem is that eventually the problem is eventually it breaks down because it becomes a non-starter. Because at the end of it, all I'm like, look.
But see, in civil discourse, there is no such thing as non-starters, and that is really the problem with the society that we're in right now.
But no,
is nobody Like let's try to break this down for a little bit, okay? When you have two factions all dueling for two different things, okay? The only way that things don't resort to violence is for people to be able to have an intellectually honest conversation about what they feel and why they feel the way that they do. The problem is identity politics has made it this way. I'll give you an example, okay? When Trump put on the Muslim ban a couple years, like a year or so ago? When he put on the Muslim ban, right? Closer. About 2 years ago. So he puts out this thing where he is banning certain Muslims for certain countries to be able to come into the country. Now, that is a terrible approach to a sensible solution. Because, let me explain. If the problem, hold on. All right. The problem that they had was, okay, we are having to deal with extremist jihadi terrorism, right?
They haven't dealt with extremist jihadi terrorism since 2001.
Let me get to my point.
But your point is
hold on. See, again,
I'm saying that's
civil
not
discourse.
true.
Okay, hold on. Civil discourse. Okay, so
I know, but I'm saying that civil discourse cannot be that I let you say whatever you want to say. If it's wrong, that's not true. They didn't have to do that.
Let me get to my point. Okay. You remember the incidents in France, in Belgium, in Europe, and all these type of things. Like
France, Belgium, Europe, not the U.S. Yes.
Okay, look.
But France, Belgium, and Europe didn't close their borders to those countries.
No. Okay,
that's the problem with the U.S. They want to always be nosy and shit that doesn't concern them.
Let's try to take turns on this. Okay, if we're talking about extremist jihadi terrorism, okay, we can agree that that is a thing. Do we at least agree on that thing?
It exists.
It exists, right?
Yeah.
If that is what you're trying to deal with, profiling Mormons is a waste of time and money. However you look at it, you can try to be sensible. You can try to be like, okay, you know what? I have Muslim friends and all these type of things. But if you're trying to deal with one specific problem, trying to expand your resources in order to coddle everybody and make them feel better,
they weren't coddling.
Is a waste. No.
They weren't coddling.
Again, the approach was wrong.
But
the approach was wrong. I don't agree with what he did.
Not even the approach. The solution doesn't work because the countries that they banned were not countries that were known for those things.
Again,
none
that's
of them
you talking about the solution.
You
talking about the approach. Again, yes, the countries were wrong.
But if we're gonna be specific,
but even those countries to solve the issue. If they're gonna get involved, what they did was wrong to solve the issue.
But even beyond that, not even just that, but you're saying it's to say that the country is responsible for a very minority group. That doesn't make any sense. We don't blame America. No. I understand entirely what you're saying. I get what you're saying. You're saying that they were trying to, it's a means to an end. They were trying to get to the end of solving terrorism. But the way that they were trying to solve terrorism was wrong. What I'm saying is more profound than that. It is not just that they had the wrong means. They had the wrong end because they weren't going to the right. Like, it was not. None of it was correct. 0% of that thought process. How so? Look, Muslims were never the problem. There were Muslims in the U.S. beforehand. There were Muslims before. There were talking about extremist Muslims, and they weren't. But here's the problem.
Muslims.
But here's the thing: extremist Muslims were in their countries. What? What happened? What was the Twin Towers? It was an attack, right? And they came across, and they went, and that.
Let me guess. You believe it was an inside job of the American government?
First of all, 100%. Second
of all, my God.
First of all, 100%.
Oh my God. Okay.
There's no.
Let's
way.
go through it. Let's go through it. Let me say something.
Let's suspend disbelief and say that it was 100% an attack by Al Qaeda. It was 100% a terrorist attack. There was no anything. There was no foul play happening. Mm-hmm. Even in that case, it is an incredibly small minority of people.
Yes.
At which point it doesn't make sense to ban an entire
I agree with you.
handful of countries. How are you even arguing? No. But how are you even arguing that they have a problem to solve when they haven't had a problem since 2001? It is 2017.
But how is that? How does that happen?
Make sense.
But how does that happen?
You're dealing with a country that sees it fit to go into country and shoot up innocent civilians because there's 3 or 5 or 10 people went to the U.S. and the World Trade Center.
Look, let me address the damage. Okay, guys, you guys have to let me talk. I'm stuck on hosting the show a little bit.
Time to talk.
Hold on. Okay.
You had time to talk.
Okay, let me ask you a question. See, here is why I don't believe that 9/11 was an inside job. Here's the only reason. Now, mind you, look, the American government is a despicable set of people. Okay, I cannot put it past them. But here is the one thing that I know about the American government: they are self-serving. If they're going to kill 3,000 people for the purpose of politics, they absolutely can, and I believe that they would. But they are not going to kill 3,000 of their most resourceful, successful people who died in those buildings are not fucking Joe Blows on welfare. Okay, these are people that ran the world. These are people that ran the world economy.
The people who ran the world are the people who pressed the buttons.
No,
they don't have to run the world.
These people are right. They're not gonna kill 3,000 of their most resourceful and successful people. I'm sorry, that's just not true. The American government is self-serving.
The American government can profit and has profited more.
They have
since 9/11 than they would have otherwise. They have not, because first of all, the U.S. is and has always been a war machine. Mm-hmm. They've been a war machine from the jump.
Absolutely.
They started as a war machine. They had wars. Literally, they've been at war their entire existence, either with themselves or with somebody else. They've always been at war.
They must. That's
how they operate. And frankly speaking, that's how their economy operates. Mm-hmm. They make money off of wartime.
Yeah.
So it 100% makes sense to, and again, especially when you think about where they ended up. Mm-hmm. They ended up in the Middle East, where all the oil is. How convenient. It's way too convenient. The only thing that they wouldn't gain is the lives of 6,000 people, which is nominal. 6,000 people is nothing to 350,000.
No, but it's not just 3,000 people. It's 3,000 of their most.
That's not their best and brightest. Stop.
Are you kidding me, bro? These people are running the world's economy. Do you understand? The World Trade Center.
The World Trade Center is one of those bases, but it was not 100% of their economic wealth.
I'm just saying,
that's not true.
If the American government is going to murder 3,000 people, which they very easily can, I just don't think that they would kill, these people who are these rich Jewish bankers.
Of course they would kill rich Jewish bankers. They would kill rich Jewish bankers because there's more rich Jewish bankers. There are richer Jewish bankers. who will profit off of it. There's somebody bigger
if they
who makes
can
more
make
money.
more money off of it, then they'll do it. They don't care.
See, the way when people say that the U.S. economy is a war economy, it's not that, they make money out of selling bullets. The way that they do it is it's just proxy wars between Russia and the U.S. that they just don't want to fight each other in their own land. It's the same thing that is going on in Venezuela. It's what's going on in Syria. It's what's going on everywhere. It's what happened in Afghanistan.
All of that is fall off from decades
the
of
Cold War. Yeah.
It's
After
decades of Cold War
right,
stuff. That's what happened in Korea. It's what happened in
Afghanistan.
South Korea. It happened in Afghanistan. It happened in Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
It happened all over the world. It happened in a whole. The Cold War was really just the U.S. and the USSR fighting in places that were not them.
Right.
That, however, is not this. This is a separate thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. Right. Because did you see Vice, the Dick Cheney movie?
I haven't.
No. Oh, you must see it. It's a goddamn amazing movie. It's Dick Cheney he's a perplexing human being. See, to me, I always ask myself, I'm like, okay, so let's say, for example, that you know another reason why I have a hard time believing 9/11 was an inside job. Imagine how many people it would take to plan something like that. How is it that not one? No, imagine putting fucking. Like they say, like the theory is that they put like these bombs on the columns of the World Trade Center, and then it just kind of blew up in the building. Like, okay, fine. I've seen the videos too. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine how many people it would take to put something like that? And nobody has come out. Nobody has had a crisis of conscience and be like, okay, you know what? I was in on this. Like, it would take at least 1,000 people to put something like that together.
You overestimate how many people it would take. It would take a lot of organization, but not necessarily a lot of people.
Bro, Bill Clinton came on some girl's blouse, and he could not keep that secret.
First of all,
you're gonna kill 3,000 Americans.
You mean to tell me that you consider something like that, which is what, like at best a minimal level scandal? Like, it's a tiny little, as opposed to a full conspiracy. But he could not keep that secret. He's still you know what? A scandal is a scandal as long as it affects you. But that's something that's able to lose. That's something that you're able to lose, and especially in the interest of maintaining the illusion of a certain kind, like of how a government works. It's very, very worthwhile to have somebody, or have several, or have many people fall and look faulty, so that the government looks fallible, because that's what the government needs to be. Because people need the government to be fallible, otherwise they will distrust
You really don't
it.
think nobody will... Like, how many people do you think it would take to put a 9/11 together? Like, think about it.
I don't think it would take more than a handful.
What's a handful?
I don't think it would take more than like a what? Let's call it 100 people.
100 people.
It could take.
So you're gonna tell me that you can organize a band of 100 people to kill 3,000 people, and nobody comes out, nobody has a crisis of conscience?
No.
Come on, bro.
No. Are you insane?
No.
Do you know how
all this like this?
Do you know how wicked people are?
I don't know, bro. I don't know.
You must know
3,000
nice
people.
No, you must know really nice people.
It's normal human nature. Think about it. Eventually, somebody is bound to crack. Like, it's just...
That's not true. People don't crack. People hold trauma in for their whole lives.
Shit like that. This long? Like, how long has it been now? Like, what? 17 years?
17
Almost 20 years later?
People hold in rapes for 30, 40 years.
That's one person.
100
people, not one. 100 people,
100%,
not one.
I could see 100 people. I could see 1,000 people.
You're not.
Because think about things like, for instance, think about it. You're thinking about regular level people.
Yeah.
But like.
So what? These are all like 100 like CIA mercenaries.
You can find CIA. First of all,
nobody on their deathbed was like, oh, holy fuck, I must confess.
Confess.
You know what I mean?
You can confess to somebody. I'm cool.
Yeah.
I still have this. I'm holding.
Yeah.
But no, you can.
I don't know, bro. On your deathbed, you're not gonna just like, I don't know, bro.
No,
I don't know.
You widely overestimate how much people how intrinsically good someone could be, because people will have that shit and die with it. People die with bad things every day. The worse it is, the more likely you feel like you probably can't talk about it. It happens all the time. How you think veterans literally lose their minds talking about not talking about things that happened in the war. It's wild. It's wild, and it happens, and it's very easy to happen, and it's not unfathomable that there could be a room of 50 to 100 people who all at one point had to have that conversation. They had to make decisions because the same thing happened. Look at every war. Look at every war. You mean to tell me that you don't think that there's a handful of people who orchestrate a war? And
well,
it's the same.
But a war is different. A war is different. You know, that, like Colin Powell. Colin Powell went in front of the UN with a fucking little vial full of God knows what. I think it was cinnamon. To me, I think it was cinnamon powder, and it was like, this is the evidence that Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction. But see, that's easy to be able to put 2 and 2 together and figure out what the play is. 9/11 is a little bit more complex, and I found like a lot of these like conspiracy theories tend to really just water it down a lot. Because somebody wants to make $2 billion off insurance.
It's a conspiracy, and it wouldn't be $2 billion. It would be
the guy who had there was like tower number 7 or something like that, and it wasn't touched by a plane, but it's still like collapsed or whatever it is. So like the guy who owned the towers got like insurance. Did you ever watch the Zeitgeist? Like I
haven't watched the whole thing. No.
You never seen Zeitgeist? Oh, you have to watch.
Pieces,
they really try to break down the whole 9/11 thing, and they're like, okay, look, this guy took out an insurance policy for $2 billion on the buildings before they actually collapsed. And I don't know, man. Like, look, I just have a hard time believing that the American government, like, which we know to be self-serving. Going to Iraq is a self-serving situation.
And how did they get there?
You know what I mean? Huh?
They start because remember when they were originally going on their air quote war against terrorism, where did they start out? They started out of Pakistan and Afghanistan. And now they're in Iraq.
No, but they were fighting that was the Russians. They like Al Qaeda was created by the American government. This was like the Mujahideens were.
I know
they were trained by the CIA to fight the Russians.
In the 1970s, yeah.
Right.
And that's the thing. Since we're talking about because of the Cold War stuff, because it's true, it does matter. But yeah, no, all of that is Cold War stuff. You talk about all of, frankly speaking, damn near every enemy, air quote, that the Americans have, that America as a country has now is an enemy that America created to offset the communist.
The communist. Look at Syria. Look, Bashar al-Assad is an insane human being, but the reason why Syria is going to shit in a handbasket is because it's the last strong faction that the Russians have in the Middle East. The Americans have bases in Turkey. They can send a nuke to Moscow in 25 fucking minutes.
Which is why the Cuban Missile Crisis was the thing.
You know what I mean? So that's why the Russians will never let go of Syria. They will rather fucking die there and go to war in goddamn Wisconsin if they have to, because that's their last stronghold. It's the same thing that is happening in Venezuela. The situation in Venezuela is insane.
Of course.
Like communism, that's why like extreme socialism, like you say you like, see, I consider myself a centrist, right? I don't lean too far right, I don't lean too far left, especially seeing what the left has turned into in the last while. It's a lot for me. This culture of extremes is a lot for me.
But I mean, at the same time, the right is as much a culture of extremes. Everybody's a culture of extremes.
That's why I say I'm a centrist.
But like, I feel that and the reason why I go left, even though I acknowledge that both of them are really extreme and both of them have a host of faults. The reason that I lean left is that because when I look at the things that the left are extreme about, a lot of it is stuff that would correct social issues. A lot of that stuff is like, for instance, the left is extreme about representation and fair distribution of property and rights and wealth. But
how do you feel about the fact that they never deliver? Do you know that lady?
Well, the problem is, don't forget, and one thing that we have to remember when we talk about delivering is how long the systems that we're talking about have been in place. So, for instance, let's say there was somebody who said, hey, elect me, I'm going to dismantle racism. First of all, whoever says that, whoever makes that claim is going to need like a smooth 50 to 100 years.
Yeah.
And that's being incredibly generous, because That's the system.
Did you hear about that lady who is Oprah's spiritual guide, and she's thinking about running for president, and she pulled out this thing where she's like, oh, we should put $200 billion aside for slavery reparations. See, to me, that's what upsets me about the left. You will never be able to make that happen, and you know it. But see, the left takes the black vote for granted. When we hear shit like this, there's a lot of niggas out there who are like, oh, how did it little? And then we just go out there and we vote for these Democrats, but we just getting smoke blown out our ass.
But the thing is, we're also not like people.
Do you really believe that somebody can pull off reparations?
No,
I don't believe of $200 billion.
I don't believe. Well, first of all, I don't believe that that's an unreasonable number. That if they were to put it aside, they could.
But do you think anybody could pull it off?
They will not.
Right.
They won't. Could they? Absolutely.
But how can they promise
because here's the thing, and here's the thing.
If they know they can pull it off and they're promising it,
but don't forget this.
That's dishonest.
They did that with the Native Americans and the Native Canadians. Mm-hmm. If you look at the treaties and all that stuff, they did the same concept of thing, right? Mm-hmm. Where they would go, hey, you know what? For all of the natives who existed as a part of this tribe, we have allotted this much money. We are going to distribute it over this course of time to these people, and whatever is left over will be saved for your for generations that come. Mm-hmm. And that is how they allot the money. Mm-hmm. These things exist, and there is not only do they exist, there is a precedent for them. There is a precedent for reparations, mm-hmm. because we have something to the equivalent of it's not anything real, mm-hmm. and it's not any kind of, it wasn't a good deal by any stretch of the imagination for the Native Americans, mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to insinuate that it was, but the fact is that it does exist, and there is infrastructure for that to exist. Mm-hmm. It is not completely unheard of that we could get reparations.
And that's why I despise Bernie Sanders.
Will we get reparations? No. Mm-hmm. Not as long as Western civilization exists the way it does.
Yeah,
it will not happen. 100%.
You know what's so funny? I did this talk a little while back where I talk about North American democracy and how it's a fucking joke. I always get in trouble for saying that Barack Obama is one of the worst presidents the United States ever had.
Well, on what grounds?
I'll explain. To me, I feel like he got a pass where you can never really see what he was doing, and you always have to see, like, there is the shit that you do in public, mm-hmm. that is, and the shit that you do that is, an aside. I'll give you an example,
yeah, but
right?
That's being a president.
No, hold on. I'll give you an example, right? Donald Trump ran his campaign on the fact that he, quote unquote, hated Muslims. Do you actually believe that Donald Trump hates Muslims? It's a yes or no question.
No, of course not. I believe that.
Do you know why he does
on an institutional level? Yes, in the way that he's racist. 100%.
You want me to tell you why that's not true? This guy made a living out of selling $25 million apartments. Who the fuck do you think is buying these?
No,
do you think it's Todd in Iowa?
Exactly. All the Arab Emirates.
So he would go on stage. He would go on stage and say terrible things about Muslims, and then turn around and negotiate a 10 fucking arms deal with the king of Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I'm saying? So because he knows what he needs to say to his electorate in order for them to put him in power. So it's the same thing that Obama did.
Well,
when they said that Obama created ISIS, I really do truly believe it.
Of course he didn't.
No, listen. But ISIS was a fucking fringe movement until he pulled, because he knew, remember when they were talking about boots on the ground, boots on the ground was like a thing, we're taking everybody out, but there's gonna be some boots on the ground. When they pulled their soldiers, you know what they did? They left all their trucks, all their guns, all their materials. Well, and then these guys came in and they took it because they knew once this guy had the ammunition, then they're going to rise, and then they're going to have another reason to step back into Iraq.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? So this guy did that.
But what I'm saying is that he's...
But we look at him as this angel who is fucking...
And it's not to say that Barack Obama is any kind of an angel or any kind of a...
he's no different from everybody else.
Anything other than a charismatic person. Mm-hmm. Barack Obama is incredibly charismatic. Barack Obama
gets people to move.
Guy to watch. Yeah. He's a fun guy to watch. He's an interesting guy to watch. He's entertaining, and he is good at the face part of the job. Mm-hmm. The thing is that I do not genuinely believe that anything besides that face part of the job is up to the president.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense.
I actually agree with that's why I say that Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, they're all civil servants to the same corporation, and those are the true people.
It's all the same agenda. It's the same agenda orchestrated in slightly different ways, with a handful of small points that people will latch onto.
Which brings
all people ever do with politics is they latch onto the small things that affect them, and they leave
everything else,
all the rest of it.
Yes, so most voters are single issue voters. Some people vote because they're like, you know what, fuck your healthcare plan. I want this guy's healthcare plan,
which is ridiculous.
It is absurd. But the point that I was trying to make is this: as long as North American politics is set up in a way where if I'm going to run for president, I need 20, 30, 40, 50 million dollars to do so, but I cannot use my own money.
Yeah, you have to have corporate.
I have to have sponsors. This corporate sponsors.
Where are these sports sponsors coming from?
Exactly.
They're going to be corporate.
And that is the point that I was trying to make. Instead of us doing this Black Lives Matter bullshit where we're laying in the fucking traffic, blocking traffic. If we go to Walmart and we're like, listen,
but that's not.
Hold on. If we go to Walmart and we're like, yo, look, this is what's gonna happen. This is the guy that has our, because see, our problem is not white people. Our problem is the fact that as a people, we can never rise together.
Well, no.
The only thing that the black man distrusts more than the white man is the other black man.
I don't agree with that. And here's my problem with that thought process. Here's my problem with the general idea of, well, black people need to do X. Here's the thing. Black people have existed in this side of the world as relatively free people for a little over half a century. A little over half a century.
Right.
Against institutions of white supremacy that have existed for centuries. Mm-hmm. Nothing that happens to us has happened to us for the first time. And we are economically disproportionately put down. We are oppressed. We are oppressed as shit. Black people are super duper oppressed. Now, that is not to say that, oh, we're oppressed, we can't do anything. But it is to say that us being oppressed does affect our ability to do things like that. Now, it's all good and well.
Define oppressed in 2019. Like, how oppressed are you right now?
Oppressed in financial ways. Now, for instance, I live a middle class living, right? Mm-hmm. I live a modest middle class life. Mm-hmm. I'm fine, but most black people are broke, especially if you go into the States. The majority of black people live in, look out.
But is it white people's fault? Is it really white people's fault?
Yes. Because don't forget,
man.
Are you crazy?
Come on,
No. Here. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you exactly why it's white people's fault. Because white people brought black people here as slaves. But let's talk about you specifically, or specific black person. I'm going to get to. And that's the problem. You can't look at just me today, because I today don't exist by myself. Because white people today don't have money because of themselves. White people exist because they were allowed to have money before. White people, even when they were in indentured servitude. Indentured servitude was not the same as slavery, and there were indentured slaves who got paid. There were indentured slaves who got money. They were allowed to own property. They were allowed to own things. Mm-hmm. The people who own things, the people who did own things back then in the 1700s, the 1800s, the 1900s, the early 1900s, they amassed wealth. They were able to enact systems and enact change and put these things down when all of this groundwork was still being laid. Mm-hmm. Now those people exist and have money and have wealth and they're set. Mm-hmm. We started all of that in the 1940s. Don't forget, we had Black Wall Street. We had all these things that everybody's always saying black people should have.
Can I stop you for 2 seconds? Can I just interject something in there? See, to me, when I hear that, because see, it always brings me back to this saying that I heard from Oprah, one of the greatest philosophers to ever live. But she said, you can either pray or worry. You cannot do both. I feel like black people, as long as we have, I don't want to call it a victim mentality, because the moment I say that word, guys like you get fucking triggered. See, here is what I mean. We are here now. Yes, shit went bad. You know what I say? If we had invented the firearm, if the black man had invented the firearm and the sailboat before the white man, white people would have been fucking picking cotton in Senegal.
No, they wouldn't have. That's not true.
Yes,
no,
it is true.
That's not true. I'll tell you exactly why it's not true. Because
Egyptians held slaves, right? Thousands of years.
Everybody had slaves and everybody had indentured servants. Everybody had all those things. Though that's not what I'm arguing. But there is no substantive proof that black people would have done that. Why? Because we didn't. First
We
of all,
already did.
No.
We already did. Like,
we didn't cross any
brother,
type
listen,
of...
let me tell you something, okay? When the white man, and I can speak of this, like, okay, I come from Rwanda, okay? Rwanda is one of the very few countries in Africa that refused to participate in slavery only because the royalty believed that its people were worth more than a couple mirrors and pearls. But let's talk about Cameroon and Senegal. White people didn't show up 6 at a time and take 200 people at a time.
Not.
They were helped
existed.
by institutions that were in there.
There were institutions.
So this is what I'm trying to tell you. We have it in us too. And we have it in us now.
No. But what I'm saying is that you are...
Bro, you haven't heard about slavery in Libya right now?
I know about slavery in Libya right now.
Okay.
I know about all the slavery that existed. I know Ghana was a slave state. Ghana owned, like, the empire of Ghana was a slave trading empire.
So it's not just white people.
But
we had a participation in this.
No. But you are conflating the kinds of slavery that we're talking about. All slavery is not equal. All slavery is not equal. Let me finish. Let me finish. Because there are different ways that slavery can be manifested. Now, the way that we look at the slavery that existed in the Atlantic slave trade and the slavery that existed in the Arabic slave trade is by far and quantifiably more brutal.
No, but you're not addressing my point. The point that I'm making is black people participated in the Atlantic slave trade, meaning that if I'm a king, I could be like, yo, come through, Jason.
Because
it was 300 people.
Because we were already selling slaves, but we were selling slaves to do slavery the same way we did slaves. There was no this person is inherently born lesser than me. There was no racism in the pre-existing slavery. It was all war type stuff. It was all like that.
It was gain. It was economical gain.
Yes,
so it does not mean that we did not have it into us.
Well, no.
So imagine if we invented the firearm.
No. What I'm saying is that behind it is different, and intent is what makes the difference. Because
how is the intent different? It's economical gain. How is the intent different?
It was an economical gain without understanding, with an implied understanding that was how they were going to run. They didn't know that when they sent the slaves off, the conditions that there was 100%. They didn't.
They chained them. Like, come on, man.
Because you put people.
What did they think that they were? They were going for just a boat ride? Like, what do you think? Like, what do you think? What's your theory now?
They were selling them into slavery, but they did not know that they were selling them into the kind of disproportionate. Again, slavery.
Bro, how many millions?
Let me hold on.
All right.
Slavery up until like 400 years ago, when we start talking about the Atlantic slave trade, slavery was something that you could buy your way out of. Slavery was something that you could earn your way up from. Slavery was like basically like having a shitty job, a really, 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 really shitty job, but a shitty job.
It's not a job if you can't leave.
That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. To the extent that it existed, it was like that. But
again, you're missing my point.
No.
The point that I'm making is this: are we above it? Are we really above slavery? Like, as black people, if we were the ones that had the upper hand, are we really above slavery?
There was a time when we had the economic power to do so.
When did we ever invent a sailboat? That we can sell across the Atlantic?
Yes.
Rob a bunch of white people and bring them back?
No. First of all, black people were able. West Africans were crossing the Atlantic beforehand. Yeah, they were. First of all, look at all.
I'm gonna need to Google your facts. I'm gonna need to Google your facts.
Here's the thing. So you mean to tell me that you genuinely believe that white people can come down from Spain and Portugal and all that stuff and just randomly find the coast of some West African coastline, and then just happen upon a current that takes them across to the Caribbean, and happen upon a current that takes them across to Mexico and
so what's your theory? How do you think that happened?
Look at I don't even have to substantiate it. Look at the architecture of the.
It would help if you did, because I don't know.
What I'm saying is look at the what's the word I'm looking for? Look at the archaeology. Look at the patterns of all the stuff. If you look into the anthropology of the region, look at how Central and South American civilizations looked, and look at how they had their images carved, and look at how they made their bowls and how they did all those things. When you look at those things and you cross over and look at how African civilizations that were contemporary were doing the same things, it's all very, very similar. None of it was especially different one from the other. It is not,
brother. Like you're
it's not.
like it's just.
No, it's
see, to me,
true.
address my point. Okay, here is my one question. It's a yes or no question. Okay, and I want you to put your utmost intellectual honesty forward. Do you really think that as black people, if we had invented the firearm first, and we had the resources of the white man, and we had the foresight of we already had that because we had already been using free labor to build pyramids in the most fucking like complicated and geometrical ways possible, right? So we were already familiar with indentured servitude. Do you really think if we had the means, if we beat white people to the punch, we are so above on this, like that we would not take advantage of it? Like we would not. Like you're saying that we're so above.
I'm going to give you a two-part answer to that. I'm going to say yes with an asterisk. I'm going to say yes. We are not so above it, though, per se. It is not that we are above it. It is that our value system is radically different. The way that white cultures look at land, the way that white cultures have relationships with land and all that stuff.
You're overcomplicating it. Let's talk about that specific aspect of free labor and its profits.
But you are we so above it? No, you're talking about that like it exists in a vacuum. The way that white people interact with land, interact with people, interact with property is radically different from historically how any people of color interact with it. Whether it's Chinese people or any other Asian people, whether it is black people or whether it's Native Americans.
But dude, I disagree. I come from I disagree. See, listen, I come from Rwanda, right? I've watched a million people die 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, like listen, let me tell you something. I'm gonna tell you this. Okay, human beings are human beings no matter what the color is. Okay. I've watched a million people die over the course of 3 months. The Rwandan genocide was the most effective extermination of human beings ever dictated. Do you know why? Because the government in place knew that their army could not be able to sustain a fight against the rebellion, so they rose a portion of the people against people inside the country.
Yeah.
Do you understand that? And it's not so it does not mean that we don't have that evil in us. We just got beat to the punch.
I'm not saying, no, I don't agree with that. And here's the thing. I'm not saying that it's we don't have evil within us or anything to that point. What I'm saying is that the ideologies that exist at the time, the ideologies that existed, were not such that they would lend themselves to that kind of conquering. Not then. Which is what you said. If we had beat them to the punch, would we have done it? No, because we don't have those ideologies. We didn't
have the means. It's not the ideology. The ideology was there 3,000 years ago when the Jews were building pyramids. It was there.
No, because that's different. That is indentured servitude to a point. They still had communities.
How is it any different? Dragging a 3,000 ton stone.
I'm not talking about how hard the labor is. I'm not talking about how hard the task is. I'm talking about the system that existed. It was different.
How?
Because they were allowed to have their own quarter. They were allowed to have their own homes. They were allowed to have their own property. They were allowed to collect wealth. They were allowed to move up in society.
However, it was defined.
You couldn't
it's the same thing. House niggas and field niggas.
House niggas and slave niggas. House niggas and field niggas is not the same as.
Maybe that's a bad explanation.
It's not the same concept. It's not even close to the same concept. Even if you were.
So you're saying that what? Like Egyptians were better slave masters than white folks? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying that. No, I'm not saying that they were better slave masters. I'm saying that the ideology around slavery was substantially different, and I'm saying that the ideology around slavery was not based on people being lesser than each other. That's not what it was.
No, you know what made a difference is white people had the Bible. Jesus helped slavery. That's really what happened. It's the idea of like God says so that really reinforced it. Because see, slavery only works when the people with no slaves work alongside you.
But again,
if I have,
that becomes
how many people do you think actually had slaves in the
no,
States?
of course, no,
very
no, it was
few.
not, because it's a rich
motherfucker. So, but
again,
the only way that the system works is if the poor guy with no slaves sees your property running around.
But then we're talking ideologies though. At that point, especially when you're talking about, which is what I'm saying, the ideology didn't exist to do that. Now, when you look at how
it could have been developed. This was developed over 400 years.
Well, hold on, because I'm not even going to talk about Christianity by itself, because I'm going to talk about Christianity as it was interpreted by Europeans. Because I don't think that Christianity in and of itself is what's responsible. I think that the way that was interpreted, because even if you read the Bible, the Bible has its fair amount of things where it says
it's an insane book. It's an insane.
It takes you for a wild ride. It takes you for a wild ride. But what I'm saying is that the Bible, when read with an understanding of the historical context and with an understanding of other texts from the time and all these things, when you read all of that area, when you read that with that understanding, it falls in line with things that were being written at the time. It's not like, it's not that the Bible was drastically different. Here's the problem. White people translated and read the Bible and decided that they were the protagonists.
But see, you're wrong there.
No.
It's not just white people.
Happened.
Think about it this way.
No. But
Okay. Take this in.
No, hold on, because I'm
take
not
this
done.
in and then put it in your point.
No.
I swear to God, it's a small little tiny point. I just want you to incorporate it when you're formulating your answer. You can never be elected president of the United States if you say that you're an atheist.
But again,
so take it in and now address it in your point.
It is because the United States was actually, it wasn't especially founded on, it was founded on religious freedoms and all that stuff.
Oh, fuck
but
yeah.
It was like at least ostensibly founded on religious freedoms. But at the same time, where did they come from? Britain. What is Britain? The Anglican theocracy. Theocracy. It's an Anglican theocracy, and it has been for 1,000 years.
God damn it! See, that's that liberal overcomplication shit.
What are you talking about? It's called context. No. Hold on, because let me finish my point, because you cut me off before my point too. So again, white people in the late in what, like the 200, 300 CE, they decided to institutionalize Christianity. That was when the Roman Catholic Church started.
Right.
Roman Catholic Church started around 325-ish. The only church that's older than it is the Ethiopian church. But since then, it has been something that has been taught throughout white cultures. And I say white cultures because it was Europe that was using Christianity this way. Europe was out here taking Christianity and using it first to subjugate each other, because the Romans were trying to subjugate the Celts, and then certain Celtic tribes were subjugating each other, and the Franks were trying to subjugate Celts, and then the Britons were trying to subjugate Celts, and the Anglos and the Saxons and all of these things that existed. They have been doing that to each other for a good 1,000 years before they were doing it to anybody else. They have had practice doing this. So they took all of this information and they said, this book is about us. That's why all the pictures are white guys, even if you read it and you look at the geography and you look at the
it's called the King James Bible.
Because King James not produced it, but he
Okay. So let me address this part here. Okay. Let me
No, hold on. Let me finish though, because I said, this is this is the problem that I have with people who look for short answers from long problems.
No, it's not short answers, because I'm actually like, you bring this passion out of me, because I don't get to have
I feel
these conversations, because like this is shit that I've been holding in, so I don't have a lot of people around me that I get to have this conversation with.
I'm just you know what I mean? Like, trying to say the thing, you know?
Like, it's just, to me, like, I honestly, I just want to like throw things in just to be like, okay, so wrestle with this. How about it? And
no.
I understand that, like, it may not be a professional way to run a goddamn talk show, but goddamn it, we're doing it.
That's fine.
You know
I'm not mad at it. All I'm saying is, when you look at it from the historical context, right? And historical context is radically important when you look at things, like anything that happens today. Even if you were to talk about, like, exactly what we're talking about. We were originally talking about a guy in Virginia who did blackface, and now we're talking about 2,000 years ago, because it literally all matters.
Those are the conversations because it all kind of like weaves within.
Exactly, because something happened to cause something to happen, to cause something to happen, to cause something to happen, to cause something. That's literally
and those are the conversations that are meant to be had. And like 100%. I feel like this type of platform is there for that purpose, is to be able to really kind of dissect those things. But can I share something with you?
And that's why I'm here. Like, and I don't have a problem with it. I'm not one of the people who doesn't believe in having conversations. Right. I don't not believe in having conversations. I don't believe that everyone.
Honestly, my goal in life is to turn you into a centrist. I feel personally, I feel like you see yourself in the middle.
No, I used to be a centrist.
You're redefined.
I was a centrist for a very long time.
Right.
Eventually, as I learned more about history and geography and the world, I started leaning left, because I started realizing the existence. Not only did I realize the existence of all these like oppressive powers and all these oppressive systems, I started realizing exactly how long-lived they are.
Right.
Like, again, Britain has existed for 1,000 years.
You gotta allow me. You gotta allow me to jump in.
Jump in.
Okay. See. Here is the thing. See, to me, what I call leftover explanation is, I feel like liberals feel like they're so smart that they overcomplicate everything. See, to me, I boil it down to one simple thing: human nature. See, human beings, we have this thing that ever since we got like thumbs and iPads, we think that we are a special breed of animals. But here's the truth, okay? All we are, all of us, black, white, yellow, red, you fucking name it. All we are is primates spinning through space at 3,200 miles an hour, pretending like we know what the fuck is going on. Okay,
I don't necessarily disagree with that.
Okay. So hold on. Let me address my point. Mm-hmm. See, I make a living as a performance coach, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I make a living out of just really getting people out of their own way to get to their fucking primal state, which is where they actually do what they really are meant to do. Okay, mm-hmm. And here is the point that I was trying to make when we're talking about the whole slavery thing, right? When it comes to God, right? When it comes to the God of Abraham, like the sky daddy that sits there and writes down everything that you do when you're naked, and then when you die, he pops in the DVD and he's like, motherfucker, on March 11, 2001, you went down on a hooker, goddammit. That's 1 point off.
I mean,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
I feel like that's more. But
here's the point that I'm trying to make. See, the God of Abraham was created solely to validate power. King and God. Church.
But that's
hold on. No, it is absolutely true.
No.
Hold on. Okay, let me just finish my point. Okay. To me, I really do truly believe that the day science answers the one question that plagues the human being the moment they're old enough to ask it, and that question is, what happens when I die? The moment science answers that question, God will be out of the picture. And I'll tell you why I believe this, okay? When I was 20 years old, my cousin, she was 19. She was the first ever in our family to go to an Ivy League school. She got accepted to Harvard. She was the only child in her family, right? That August, before she went to school in September, she died in a car accident. The only thing that was able to get her mother out of bed was the fact that she believed that one day she too shall die, rise to the skies, and spend an eternity eating oranges and singing hymns with her daughter and Jesus. That's the only thing that makes. So I understand the necessity of faith. It makes you go on and on. But here's the problem. Faith influences behavior. Mm-hmm. When somebody who's a member of ISIS says death to the infidels, that guy is actually living his true faith, because his book says that anybody who does not believe in his God must and shall die. You understand? So this is where it gets dangerous, because it now spills. Because see, to me, you want to fight, man, you want to have a war on the battlefield, mazel tov. And let's people go do your thing. When war spills into the fucking mall, I don't give a fuck what your problems are. I don't care what it is that you are protesting against. You bring that shit to the Starbucks, I don't give a fuck. Civilians are never to be dead, but their book justifies it. So it's not that they're wrong, it's their faith influences their behavior. So the point that I'm trying to make is this. Human beings are just animals with iPads, and all we want is to survive and the people in our circle to grow. It's us against them all the time. USA. You know what I'm saying? One team against the other. We have always fought. That's the only way that guarantees survival. That is natural.
But here's the problem. The thing is this, that we are not simply animals with iPads. We're animals with iPads and higher level reasoning ability. We have the ability to be self-aware.
Do you believe in free will?
I believe in free will. Free will is a complicated concept.
That's another 2-hour podcast right there.
I don't.
You don't even want to go there right now.
Free will is really complicated. What I do.
I feel like I'm exhausting you right now.
Not really. I like arguing. But I believe that humans, regardless of our nature, are not slave to our nature. We are not only allowed to be what we are right now. Just because we've always done something does not mean.
But see, I can bet you one thing. I can tell you why I believe the opposite, but I bet you cannot tell me why not. I bet you cannot tell me why you actually believe.
I can tell you why I believe that. Because humans are very much oppositional. We are very much our tribe versus your tribe kind of thing. That's how we've run. That's how we evolved to be. It's a survival instinct. That being said, if there were, for instance, a situation where it became that all humans could be one tribe, like for instance, there was extraterrestrial life or something to that effect. Right? In that situation, now the same tribalistic thing that separates us into races and countries and all these things and
it will disappear. You're actually right. That's actually the answer to peace on Earth.
I don't necessarily think
it's an enemy outside of Earth.
Basically, it's not that it would disappear, but it would become trivial. The same way, because for instance, if you look at how black people disagree, right? Like I don't agree with you on an ideological level. We'll be arguing. But if a white guy makes a good radio though. But a white guy comes in here and calls us nigger.
Oh shit!
It's a fight.
We're jumping them right away. Yeah.
And we might still not agree.
But
that's
we're
a fight that we have to
have
now. Right. So that is why I do believe that humans have the ability to rise above what we disagree upon or what we don't believe in,
given the right
circumstances.
Yeah, exactly.
But the issue is that right now,
that's what an animal is. An animal reacts based on circumstances. That's all.
Everything reacts. Physics is circumstances. Physics is reaction has an equal and opposite.
So why are we fighting physics?
But what I'm saying is that all we have right now is that we react to each other's things. But we know that if there was an outside stimulus, or at least we believe that to an extent, if there was an outside stimulus, we would react to that. What I'm saying is that if that's the case, we have the capacity to do that, whether or not there is an outside stimulus.
But no, we don't, because when a cop shoots one of us in the street, our solution is to burn our grocery store.
That's not true.
No.
That's not true.
What do you mean? There is bare evidence to prove this.
No.
Like, how often have we done this? How many times have we done this?
How many times have there been cops shooting black people?
No. Okay, look.
There's been way more black people shot. Let's not
get into semantics. Okay.
Than grocery stores burn.
No. Okay. Let's not get into semantics. Okay. So here's the point that, like, when it comes to the whole like that idea of identity politics and police brutality, do you really truly believe? Like, do you really truly believe that every cop in North America wakes up every morning was like, okay, it's another day for a good old Alabama coon hunt? Like,
No,
do you think that's actually what's going on?
No. I don't believe that every individual cop as a person is necessarily malicious. I believe that the police as a system, as an institution, is malicious. I believe that the institution of policing is malicious.
But it's another form of identity politics. It's called the blue code. It's called the blue code.
That's not. You can't identify as your job. I don't
yes,
identify as a salesman.
Yes, you can.
So
the army, like, listen, the army, like, if you're in the army, if you've served, like, listen, I grew up in Alexandria. I lived in Alexandria, Virginia for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, so this was like a place that had a lot of vets. Like, you go to any bar, if you served, if you say you served, like, it's a clique, it's a group of people.
Yeah,
like,
because that's how because it's indoctrinated.
No, it's like
It's
anything, bro. It's like anything. Like,
yeah, but it's
like as black
indoctrinated.
people, like you just said it. Like, yo, you and I are out here on this mics disagreeing, but if a white guy walks in here and calls us a nigga, we will rise at one and fuck him up.
The difference is,
so
what do you actually have in common with me beyond that?
No, that's not the
What
point.
I'm saying is
the point that I'm
they
trying to
don't
say
have
is
anything in
when
common
it comes to a point where both of us, our interests are aligned, we will rise together. Right? The problem is, especially with black people, is we seem to distrust the other black man's interests. And that's something that may have been built into us through the system. But see, the way to resolve that is not to ostracize our enemy. But is the way to realize, like, hey, look, we are above this. Because see, for example, the word nigger, right?
We don't, but you just said that we don't do that in here.
No, but see, in order to do that, we have to get over ourselves.
So then
we have this thing where, like,
you believe the same thing I believe then, if that's the case.
No. Yeah, that's what I've been telling you since the beginning of the show.
No. Because what I'm saying that if you believe that all we have to do in order for black people to be like, we can get past this, we have to get over ourselves, then you do believe that that humans can be more than just animals with iPads.
Yes,
because all we have to do in order to do that is to get over ourselves.
But you need
all we have to do to get to that next point is to get over
here's
ourselves.
The thing, though. Here's the thing.
Same thought.
In order to do that, you need to see the light at the end of the tunnel. The problem with us is we are comfortable being ostracized. Black people are comfortable with, yes, we are.
100% we're
yes,
not.
we are.
No.
Yes, we have this thing.
First of all, black people. No. First of all, black people have been ostracized for.
No, but we are comfortable in the victim mentality.
No, we're
yes,
not. We are not comfortable in it because we have been fighting it literally the entire time. No one has been comfortable in it. That's why slaves were escaping. That's why people were protesting. That's why people have been doing all the things that we've been doing. That's why we built our own economy, our own economic bases, even though they got destroyed. That's why we built all these things. That's why we had the civil rights movement. That's why we continue to have these movements, because we're not comfortable. Nobody is comfortable.
Tell me one movement right now. Tell me one movement right now that, okay, like,
the issue is this. The issue is not comfort. The issue is time. We compare ourselves to other peoples and other groups that have not had the same experiences as us, and have not had the same levels of disparity that we've had. For instance, there was
stats that came out that black people last year bought 3 times more Benzes than actual white people.
Okay.
Right?
What does that have to do? What is that?
I'll tell you what that has to do with. I'll tell you what that has to do with this. Because for us, like, if you look at the Jews, right? Like the genocide of the Jews was in 1945. By 1950, they had the Israeli state. Mm-hmm. It's because, see, look, the ability to focus as one unit.
No, that's not
yes, because it allows you to influence the economy.
They had things beforehand. First of all, Jewish people have had economic status and had the ability to make and save.
That is just not true.
Yes, it is.
Like, people in America were racist against Jews.
They were racist.
Until you can no longer afford to be racist against Jews.
But
how do you think?
What I'm saying, no. What I'm saying is that you could still be Jewish and be a free person.
It's the same argument that Abraham Lincoln ended slavery because white people felt bad.
That's not the same thing I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that there is a real financial disparity between being black and being Jewish, and that has existed longer than 50 years. They didn't just end up with their own country. They had buying power before that,
and that's another thing. That's another thing with black people. We feel like our struggle is so
It is
above
worse.
everybody else.
It
That
is.
is just not
Anti-blackness
true.
is all over the world. Are you insane? Yes, it is. What?
Listen.
Of course it is.
Anti-you is only, and the Jews approve this. It's only as powerful as you allow it to
course
be.
the Jews approve
listen. Like, look. I'll give you an example, okay? Like about 3 weeks ago, I got in a fight at a bar, right? Like this dude is arguing with me, It's about to go down, but I'm not like engaging, but it's going back and forth. But he knew that all else fails. He had the fucking DEFCON 1 button. If he called me a nigger, right then and there, it doesn't matter how smart I think I am, I will fucking react. See, when you give somebody that type of power over you,
it's not a power that's being given.
It is a power. Yes,
it's not a power that's been given. It's a power that was taken over hundreds of years. And again, it's not going to be the same. You're not going to have the same experience of it because you weren't here.
No,
it's
but
not
see,
your
our
history.
problem is we're trying to trust politicians to change things. Politicians ain't go change shit for you.
But that's
they
not,
just ain't gonna do it. Like the only way that this changes is for us to be like, yo, as a people, we go to Walmart and we're like, yo, this guy is going to give us reparations. He is the guy that you should be financing. Walmart wants that black dollar. That's the only thing that the only color that it knows.
And this is what I was cycling back around to this when I was talking about the fact that I have a middle class living and I can afford to do that. Poor people can't do that. Poor people don't get to pick where they buy things.
Exactly. So do you want to be free? And
you can't choose to be poor. You're born into poverty.
Yes, exactly. And you know what? That is life. Sometimes get what you want, you must suffer. Like listen, in order for you to be able to be allowed to eat at that white restaurant, you had to sit in there and get beat up and get mustard fucking sprayed over you and get ketchup and get fucking derailed as a human being and made feel like you mean nothing in order for you to get what you want to do. So are you willing?
Or literally get killed.
Are you willing?
Yes,
yes. Some people must die. Are you willing to do what you must do to get what you want to get? The problem is we are comfortable doing what we're not supposed to do.
Here's the problem. Here is the problem. The problem is that we have history of doing these things, and we have history of these things being, oh, look, this was the wrong thing, and then we changed it, and this was the wrong thing, and then we changed it, and this was the wrong thing, and then we changed it. Let me fix this. Sorry, this is pissing me off. There we go. All right. It cut out.
Sorry, am I yelling in your ear or something?
No. One of this cable keeps chipping out, so it's chipping to one ear instead of both of my ears. Let's adjust that a little bit better. Anyways.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways.
So you were saying?
What I was saying is, we have history where these things happen, where we look back and we say, wow, that was fucked up. How was this like this? This was messed up. This, that, and the third were like that. And then after all of these atrocities happened, we eventually realized, or we eventually brought forward our argument and our points that this is wrong. This is not the way. This current way, the way that we do things now, is the way. And then we come up against another thing, and we have to have the same thing over and over again. What we're saying is, we, especially now, especially in the age where we have the most information available to us ever, should not have to do the exact same running through hoops that we had to do in the 90s and the 80s and the 70s and the 60s and the 50s.
You have unhealthy expectations when it comes to human beings.
It is not an unhealthy expectation. It is a perfectly reasonable expectation given how much information we have. When you don't have information, you have to do things. What I'm saying is, when you have the information, if I have already learned this lesson, if we've already done this,
that's not how change happens. Change is not based on more information.
So then, how many more times do we have? How many more Rodney Kings and Malcolm X's and Martin Luther King?
Again.
How many do there have to be until we don't have to do that anymore?
You hear me?
Are you saying that black people have to keep getting killed for another 100, 120, 200 years?
That is not what I'm saying.
How?
But what's going to change things is stop expecting the other side to change. Change must be forced, but it's not done by force, because what you do by force is creating more dire circumstances for yourself. The point that I'm trying to make is this: we need to come to peace with our situation. The moment, but meaning to come to peace doesn't mean accept it. But come to peace with it. Be like, okay, hold on. Let me finish. Allow me to finish. Listen. The moment that freedom will really come about is when we stop feeling like these people are going to change or see us any differently, or somehow they're going to become better. They're just their great grandparents in the age of information. And therefore, but here is the difference. Through space and time, we have slowly chipped at the wall. Now we are at a point where we got to make a decision. Are we going to wait for them to be like, oh, welcome to America? Or are we going to fucking force them to accept us and deal with us the way that we're supposed to do? But the only way that happens is if we stand as one. And that is really what the true problem is. The Jews can stand as one. The fucking, like, these people can stand as one unit and influence policy. Again, the problem with us is like yes, I understand that you're saying like, oh, you know, some people are poor. Yeah, I understand. Hold on. Let me finish. You made a point. You're like, yo, you know what? Some of us are poor and we cannot afford to fight the good fight. Guess what? Rosa Parks could not afford to sit in the back of the bus.
Rosa Parks was a trained she was a trained protester.
Whatever.
She
Look,
was not just
we want change. You have to be willing to do things that you don't want to do in order to get the things that you don't have.
But that's not correct, though. That's not what happened. Like, and this narrative that diminishes Rosa Parks to being some tired lady who just sat down is completely false. It's backwards.
That's not Rosa it. Parks, not the.
Let me, because Rosa Parks was a trained protester. The sit-in thing, the bus sit-ins, were things that people were trained and prepared to do. It was not something that just happened. It was not just some, you know what, I'm tired, I'm doing this. No, it was something that was organized. It was a formal protest.
My mention of Rosa Parks relays on this one thing. It's not just really Rosa Parks. It's what that did for the bus company. Because see, the guy who owned the bus company finances congressmen, right? So this guy knows that niggas ride the bus at a 3 times the rate than white people do. That nigga dollar still matters to him. So if he's going to finance a congressman, he's going to finance a congressman that has his clientele at heart in order for them to keep spending their money on his buses. And that is the way that we need to play the game. That is the way that we need to play the game. We need to stop expecting white people to come save us.
Problem. And it's not about expecting white people to come save us.
It seems like it.
No, because you're just refusing to acknowledge the severity of the problem. Because anytime anybody likens black plight to any other race's plight, I know that they don't quite grasp exactly how big a deal.
But I'm black, so what's wrong with me?
Because the problem is this: when you talk about race and you talk about how things start, talk about racial disparities, you start at slavery, it's already wrong. Because you're not, and you say, okay, well, slavery happened. Well, now what? If you don't pay attention to the context that slavery created, you talk about things like, okay, well, after the slaves were freed.
But that's exactly what I'm talking about.
What I'm saying is, after the slaves were freed, what did they have? Nothing. A lot of them had to go back to working in the same fields that they had to work in before. Now they just get paid a little bit. Even if you were to look at other people in the same time frames, if you were to look at Asian people, like for instance, Chinese people in Canada,
Vancouver, and
Chinese people in Canada, Chinese people all over the West Coast, they were paid. They were given just about slave work. Like it was like I'm not going to diminish the brutality of the work done by Asian people to create the railroad that basically created Canada. I'm not going to diminish that, but at the end of the day, with all the bullshit and all the foolishness that they were put through, they were paid. They were allowed to amass wealth.
Okay, yeah,
Now,
no, I get
and
it.
here's the
But see,
problem.
I think
If
you're
you are
addressing
able
two
to
different
amass
things
wealth,
here.
no. But what I'm saying is that is the real problem. When you are able to amass wealth, you are able to create infrastructure for your people. You are able to create Chinatowns, and you're able to create.
But this is
Greek towns.
2019.
No.
We have
2019.
plenty ability to do that.
No,
Like,
you're
come on,
not
man.
grasping that. Look, every African country. Name me more than. Okay, well, we got what? Maybe 2 African countries that are older than 70. Ethiopia.
What is it, Sierra Leone?
and-
No, not Sierra Leone. Fuck. I'm not even sure. Like, Rwanda is close to 70. We're like, oh, no, actually, no. It's at 1960.
You were 1963, so you're 50.
60,
you're
60.
in your 50s.
So, yeah. But, like,
But, like,
look,
what I'm
like,
saying-
I get
what I'm
it, bro.
saying
Like,
is that
look,
there's
I'm
no-
not denying the impact. I'm saying, where do we go from here? Because
What I'm saying
you can
is
either
until
pray
you-
or worry. We can either sit here and try
But
to
even-
like,
even the
oh my
prayer or
God,
worry
they
thing
did
doesn't
this to
work in
us,
this
and they did this
situation.
to us, and they, yes,
First
yes,
of all,
it does.
It doesn't, because first of all, if you ever prayed, you know that you won't stop worrying once you pray. That's not true. That's a very idealistic thing, but it's not what happens. Nobody's praying.
No, but see,
and then says,
here's the point that
"Whoa, I'm done
okay.
worrying about
I'm
that
not saying
forever."
okay. Maybe
That's not a
praying,
thing.
maybe praying is the wrong. Like,
But you're
okay,
saying you can
here's
be-
the point that I'm trying to make. Okay, you can either direct your energy in 2 directions.
Forwards
you
and
can
backwards.
feel sorry for yourself
Now, again,
and all
no,
the
no.
things that has happened
But
to
that's
you,
not true.
or you can be like, okay, how do I take advantage of the system and dominate it? Because
What I'm saying-
at the end of the
what
day,
I'm
black
saying
people,
is
we
this.
have an upper hand right now.
No, we don't.
Yes,
What?
we do. We
In what
dictate
sense?
culture right now.
No.
Bro,
We dictate
a
popular
governor of
culture.
Virginia-
We dictate
a governor
the fun
of Virginia
stuff. We
puts on
dictate pop
blackface
music.
and his whole entire fucking career ends, okay? Like,
And then no.
like,
but
real Jim Crow is turning in his grave right now.
No. Because the governor of Virginia can put on blackface and get under fire, but the president of the United States can say that African countries and Haiti are shit.
Okay, no. You're not gonna do that. What you're not gonna do? Okay. Listen,
Because we're talking
Donald Trump is a whole entire fucking species within itself.
No,
he's the
no,
first
he is-
real true social media president. Okay, you're not gonna do that. Okay,
no,
bro.
You can't.
Okay.
No, because it's
Let me
true.
tell you why. No,
You can say
you're
no.
wrong.
You
You're
can't
wrong.
say that we
Okay.
have an advantage,
Can I give you-
and then as soon as I bring up a
Can I
point,
give
you
you?
say no, that doesn't
Can I give you an
count.
example? Can I give you an example? Okay, so let's look at Donald Trump. Okay.
Okay.
Do you remember who John Kerry is? No, not John Kerry. John Edwards. John Edwards was running for president in 2008 against Barack Obama
Yeah.
and Hillary Clinton as the Democratic nominee. He was the next in line.
Yeah.
It was a nigga and a woman. It was a no-brainer. This guy had it. He's like, okay, I'm gonna get it. It came out that while his wife had cancer, this guy fucked his maid
Yeah.
while his wife was dying. His whole entire political career fucking ended.
Okay.
Donald Trump, every day of the week, has a different scandal that comes out. There is a grab him at the pussy thing. There is this. There is that. We just live in a different world where now
what I'm saying-
we just do not give a shit about people being
that's
crass.
not true.
It's
People
a
have
reality
cared.
TV.
And it's not even just crass. It's not a matter of him being crass, because he's been crass for decades.
The standard
What we're saying is that
politician is done. He's done. Like, they're done.
But
You
what,
can't.
but what I'm saying is, you cannot say, well, we have an advantage because look what happens when you're mean to black people. And then I say Donald Trump is mean to black people all the time. Donald Trump says shitty
How is
things.
he actually mean to
Donald
black
Trump
people,
says
though?
shitty things
Like
about
what?
black people in black countries. Again, the shithole country thing. He's
But
he's
see,
all, he,
when
he
you
got- he
say
got into a
that,
fight
when
with
you say that,
Kaepernick.
when
He
you
got
say
into a
that-
Twitter beef with
when you say
Kaepernick
that,
and
that's
shit
what
like that.
breaks my heart, because I'm like, how do you not see that is a play towards his electorate? Because
Well, I don't
see, that's
care.
what black people need to do. We need to see
But here's
beyond the
problem.
cloud.
No, I'm not. There's not. It's not a cloud.
Of course there is.
You're not. You're not
Yo,
understanding.
remember we talked
you're not
about-
understanding that he's already elected. He is not catering just to his demographic.
Of course, he needs to get re-elected. He needs to get re-elected.
But he
the
also-
moment you get elected, you start running again.
But
Bro,
no. Because what I'm saying is that
remember what we said about the Arabs?
Oh my God! But bro, you're not listening. Because what I'm saying is he is not just doing this thing. He's not just doing these things. And wait, where was I going? What I'm saying is that he is still doing these things, and the same media outlets and the same things that go after other people go after him. CNN still talks about Donald Trump. MSNBC still talks about Trump. All the pundits talk about Trump, and they tell us, oh, look how racist he is, look how this he is, look how that he is. And it doesn't even seem to really affect anything of how he runs.
Do you know what? The left did that. The left is responsible for that. But remember the question I asked you? I was like, yo, do you think Donald Trump hates Muslims? Remember I asked you that earlier? What did you say? Answer the question. What did you say?
I don't believe he especially does, other than
so you get it, right?
Way.
So Donald Trump is not a racist. He just
no. But what I'm saying is this: I don't care if he's believing things or if he's just saying things as lip service. What I am saying is that he says things and there was no substantial consequence to it.
Why is that?
Because he is.
Because we have not. Because we have not put consequences in place.
Listen. No. Because again, you brought up. Look, because you were saying that that black people have an advantage, right? Mm-hmm. But then when you say that. In what sense? Because people get consequences when things happen to them. If someone dresses if someone's in blackface, if someone does something, if someone says nigger on TV or something like that, then there are consequences to it. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump has not received any consequence up till now for the same shit he's been saying. And it's not because he didn't mean it. It's not because people went, oh, he doesn't mean it. It's because it doesn't matter to anybody other than us. No one cares.
Okay, so let's act accordingly. How do we get people to care? See, that's exactly. You and I are saying the same exact thing.
We're not saying the same thing. We're saying completely opposite things. I agree with you.
Listen, I agree with you. Yes, nobody gives a fuck.
But that's not what I'm saying.
Nobody cares. So how do we survive in a world where nobody gives a fuck?
But what I'm saying is, if we are existing in a world where nobody gives a fuck, how do we have an advantage? That doesn't make any sense.
That's
the point. No, there is no advantage.
Okay, let me explain.
We dictate culture. We have an advantage in a way. We don't have control over how culture is exploited.
We have an advantage in a way where H&M will pull a picture out of a little black boy wearing a sweater that says "coolest monkey in the jungle," and then their fucking stock will fall 10 points. That is an advantage. That is the advantage that we need.
No,
that is the advantage that we need.
That's not an advantage. That
How?
does not exist.
How is that an advantage?
Anyone can do that because white women have been doing that since the 1980s.
But guess what? H&M. Now we can go to H&M.
Everyone can do it. That's not an advantage. If you have a show, if you had a shirt, if H&M put out a shirt that said, "Haha, bitch, make me a sandwich." White women would do the same thing that we would do for the monkey shirt.
But why do you want to be treated better? Like,
I'm not talking about getting treated better. I'm talking about getting to a level of equality. And
how is that equality? So you don't want the problems of white women to matter.
Oh my God. You're completely diminishing what I'm saying. You're not understanding what I'm saying if that's what you're taking from it. What I'm saying is that we do not have an advantage. If we had an advantage, then we would be able to do something that other people cannot do and receive a result that other people cannot get. That is not what happens, which means we do not have an advantage. We have no advantage.
So let's say maybe there is no advantage. Are you agreeing that at least we're playing on even field?
No. Wow. Not even a little bit. Are you insane? Again, everybody who exists right now, except for black people in North America at the very least, have had the opportunity to own land, amass wealth, and affect policy.
How does that happen?
Until
like, do you go to the land? Do you go to the land directory and you're like, oh hey, I'm white, casual, high Hitler, and then you get handed
but they had the ability to purchase things. They had money because they were making money before 1886 or 1864, whenever the Emancipation Proclamation.
I don't buy that shit.
No, that's true. You cannot buy it. It's true. Slavery existed, and as long as slavery existed.
So how do you explain successful black people?
First of all, successful black people are an exception, not a rule. Because first of all, if black people as a group were successful, then we wouldn't be having this conversation because we would actually.
But nobody as a group is successful. Yes, how do you explain poor white people then? How do you explain white trash?
White people exploit white people too. That exists, but that does not change the fact.
So it's not about you then. So it's not about you then. It comes up to a point that that's human nature.
No, that's human nature.
Humans exploit humans.
You're diminishing the point. You're diminishing the point. It's not true. What exists is this: white people, at least on an institutional level, have that ability because we exist in a white supremacist country and we exist in a white supremacist side of the world. That is just what is true. Black people have not had the ability as a group, not individuals.
Yet.
No. As a group, as a body of people, we have not had the ability to stack up that kind of wealth the same way that even, for instance, the Chinese have. The Chinese have been on the continent.
We got beat to the punch. Okay,
let me tell you something. It's not about being beat to the punch.
Can I share something with you? Can I share something with you?
Wait, hold on. Let me finish. Because it's not about being beat to the punch. It's about being held back from the punch. We weren't beat to it.
You know what put the white man at the edge? You know what put the white man at the top of the fucking food chain? You want me to tell you what really it is? Winter. No, it's true. Like, listen, no. Allow me to unpack this. Give me 2 seconds to unpack this. I was actually having this conversation with a friend of mine. I'm just kind of like, yo, why is it that countries with good weather tend to have a poorer economy than countries with less adverse weather? Do you know what it is? Winter genetically predispositioned the white man to plan ahead. If you did not save your food in the summer, you will starve in the winter. No, hold on. Like, see, I come from Africa, right? No, I come from Africa. No, I'm telling you this from a personal standpoint. I come from a country where there is no sitting president who is alive or not in prison. You either get imprisoned by the guy who comes after you, or you get murdered by the guy who comes after you. Do you know why? Because for thousands and thousands of years, we could always, if we're hungry, we could always grab a fruit off a tree. We could always kill an animal. So when the world became no, it's true. That's how you learn to evolve. Like, see, no. See, look, you need to start buying into like this.
What are you talking about?
Look.
Agriculture is
like, listen, I am talking.
What?
I know. Look, listen.
What are you talking about?
When the weather is friendly to you, you don't need to save because how is it that you're not? How is it that you're not getting anything? Okay, listen. How is it that you're not getting what I'm saying?
I understand your point.
If you do not have to save, right? Because at any time of the year you can always eat. Do you realize what happens? Because see, everything that you are is a combination of nature and nurture, right? Meaning like the things that you are passed through evolution as well as your environment. If your environment has conditioned you to always
people have been saving.
I know, bro, but see, it's not. Okay. How is it that you actually just refusing to?
No, because your point is invalid.
How is it invalid?
Because white people.
No, do you not understand how genetically?
I get what you're talking about.
Genetically, having to save your food.
What I'm saying is that everybody had to save food. Everybody had droughts. There were droughts and famines and things like that existed for thousands of years. Whether or not you were in a nice area,
not like that. Not on a yearly basis. Not on a yearly basis.
The Nile floods on a yearly basis.
There was no consistency.
Yes, there was. It's the same thing. Everybody had harvest time. There'd be rainy season and dry season. It's the same thing. It's the same concept. People had to save food. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm good. People had to save food for times when there would be no food. That is the entire concept of agriculture. That is how agriculture works. But agriculture exists.
You can always grab a fruit off a tree.
No,
we're talking about think about prior to agriculture. Okay, agriculture is a concept since when? Like 2,000 years ago?
Starving. No, 12,000 years ago.
Irrigation itself was a concept. How long ago was that? 3,000-4,000 years max.
About that.
Okay, but you have to understand how evolution works. Those things get passed on genetically. Because you don't understand. It's the things that money can now buy, bro.
So what you're saying is that. So you're saying that white people are.
Well
equipped to.
They just happen to hit the lucky side of the draw.
That's not true. That's ridiculous. That is actually nonsensical. Because first of all, it's not as though white civilizations were out here doing all these things. If that were the case, why did all the white civilizations rise to prominence later on in time then, if they were that much better off because they could
it's a question of how is it that Egypt never conquered Rome?
Egypt never conquered Rome because by the time Rome came around, Egypt was no longer in its strong point. Egypt had existed for like 1,000 years at that point.
Why did not conquer the Romans when the Romans were weak? Why did not invade Europe?
There was no Rome to conquer. Rome was like was a city-state for a long time before it was any.
They could have created Rome.
No, they couldn't have created Rome because they wouldn't have created Rome. They were doing Egypt shit. White people are the only ones who do this run around the world, try to take over everything shit. It's only them. Them and Genghis Khan.
Because they have the means to do so.
It's not that they have the means to do so, because before they had the
Did
means
we have
to do
the means to invade Rome?
Yes, because Rome was one city at a point. At one point, Rome was a small city chilling on the Italian peninsula. It was just chilling there. It was just a city. It was there. It wasn't even a big deal. Greece was the big deal. Eventually, Rome got to be a big deal, bit off of Greece's shit, ran through Greece, and took over Greece's place. That's what happened. It's not actually like they didn't just Rome. Excuse me. Like Rome didn't just start to exist and became a huge power. There was a point in time when Rome was small and Rome wasn't worth paying attention to. Egypt wasn't paying attention to Rome because Egypt was paying attention to Greece because Greece was trying to mess with Egypt. And there was the Babylonians, the Persians at that time, sorry, not the Babylonians. But at one point it would have been the Babylonians as well. There have always been powers other than Egypt, and Egypt has always been a power. So Egypt, at some point, because all empires crumble,
right?
At some point, Egypt was bound to become weaker. So Egypt,
I feel like you're overcomplicating things,
no,
man.
it's not
like,
overcomplicating. Like you're just not understanding how complicated it is. It's not overcomplicated. It's just the regular amount of complicated. That's how it is. That's what history is. It's
I know, but like, see,
by
to me, like, I feel like you are disregarding sheer human nature.
No,
like, just,
I'm not. You're disregarding context. And it's not human nature, because human nature is, again, why agriculture popped up in many different civilizations that didn't connect with each other. That's why irrigation popped up in civilizations that didn't connect with each other, because these things were necessary to sustain life. The people said, there's no trees over here. If we take the seeds and we plant the trees over here, there will be trees over here, and then we can reap trees over. We can take trees from take fruits from here instead of going all the way over there. And
so you said something interesting. You said something interesting. You said that white people seem to be the only people traveling around the world and doing this How do you not see that as like a gift within itself? Like when because it was necessary at some point. Like how do you think this society could have been built without some? Because see, if you're gonna rise, eventually some necks have to be stepped on. Because see, at the end of the day, look. I just feel like you give too much credit to the human species.
I'm not giving credit.
You know what I'm saying? Like in the jungle, nobody
credit. And we are not in a jungle.
But yes, we are. Yes, we are.
No, we don't. That is super you're super simplifying what we are as how we exist. I don't have to run around and kill something to eat. We don't have to exist like that.
You have laws, but still you have it in you. But bro, you don't realize it. You have that survival instinct in you regardless.
But we don't need to rely upon our survival instincts. We don't need to rely upon those. We have progressed as a people, as a society, as a group of societies, as a species. We have progressed so far past that we do not need those. We have these dregs of when we existed.
We have
250,000 years ago.
We have 21st century problem. I'll give you an example, okay? Like let's talk about a subject that I know I can totally relate to this thing, right? So I was having this conversation like on a different podcast about monogamy, right? And I was in a podcast with like several women, and there was this thing where they just come out, they're like, all men are dogs, right?
Okay.
And see, to me, the way I explain it is like this, okay? Why is it that, you know what? Here's the conversation that came up. It came with the whole conversation about Tiger Woods, right? Okay. Like Tiger Woods, like how is it possible that, this guy that had everything could go and cheat on his wife? And see, to me, I don't understand how you can sit there and try to judge a man in Tiger Woods' situation, right? The level of temptation that he lives under, you and I cannot plausibly comprehend it. Imagine that every time you walked out of your house, there was a busload of Scandinavian nuns just ready to suck your dick in front of their grandmothers. And every day, that's the situation that you live under. Every single fucking day, right? And then, so we got to talking about the origin of monogamy. See, 14,000 years ago, when the original Homo sapiens started walking the face of this earth, we were a polygynous society, meaning that one man could have multiple wives. Not because men were dogs, but it was a question of survival. You understand? As a woman, you needed a man that could hunt and kill a wildebeest in order to feed you and your offspring. And women were okay.
But what
being the fifth wife, like it was a much better. No, hold on.
Let me finish.
I know. But see, you don't realize this though.
Yes, I do.
No. Okay, see, here's what you don't realize. Those evolutionary concepts follow you all the way through to 2019.
I'm aware of that.
And now you may not be applying them to survival because now you have Sunnybrook. You no longer need to hold a fucking tree and squeeze that baby out, looking out for wildebeest because you got Sunnybrook. But that energy is still in you. It still has to be applied somewhere. But now we apply it to natural politics. You understand? So you don't realize like these things are there.
That is such a gross apology for like shitty behavior. Because what exists now that did not exist then is a social structure. The way that exists now, like the way that we operate now, is that is not acceptable. That is what it is. And that's what it's
because
been.
Nothing is trying to eat you.
No.
When a wildebeest is trying to eat you, this will not even be a conversation.
Wildebeest aren't trying to eat anybody.
120,000 years ago?
They weren't trying to eat anybody. Wildebeest are herbivores. They don't eat people.
Okay, fine.
That
I'm not thinking about a wildebeest.
Anyway,
a saber-toothed tiger. If a saber-toothed tiger is trying to murk you.
Regardless of what's trying to kill you, nothing is trying to kill anybody in 2019. Nothing has been trying to kill anybody.
I thought you were going to say other than the police.
Other than the police, that's true. Oh, your phone by the way. But there are no predators that are attacking us that we have to be in constant fear of for us to have to operate on these same base instincts. What I am saying is that we are not slaves to
your
our
limbic
instincts.
brain.
I don't
your
know.
limbic brain
what I'm
was
saying
created
is that
like it's just you
what I'm
don't have
saying
any
is
control
that
over
you
that.
have control over that shit. Yes, you do, because people every day do shit that we are not trained to do.
But see, that's what pisses me off when I
instance,
hear it from people on the left, because it's like you guys are the biggest victims of your limbic brain. You guys are the biggest administrators of identity politics.
Because like
it's true. Because what is identity politics? If you're not in our clan, if you don't believe in what we do, then we are going like
that's not true.
Do you know who Bill Murray is?
Yes, I know who Bill Murray is.
You know who Bill Murray is, right? So you remember, what is that book that he wrote about the differences in IQ depending on race? What was the name of that book? Fuck, I gotta Google that shit.
I don't remember what it was called, but it was racist as shit.
No, okay, but see, here's the thing though. By you saying that is you're refusing to look at the science. No,
that is not science. That was proven to be wrong. They disproved that book. They debunked it. Yes, they did. They did research it. They debunked that. There was no correlation. There is no correlation between intelligence or IQ and race. There is no correlation. Number one, there's no correlation.
But see, if you believe in what you believe in, then there should be, because you're saying that we could never build wealth, right? You made that point.
That we were not able to build wealth because of systems, because of social structures, not because we were not physically.
So think about it this way: if a black child who comes from a long lineage of people who cannot build wealth, and he can never have the same opportunities as somebody who comes from a long lineage of people who cannot, who could build wealth, do you think they will have the same views and same abilities to be able to dissect things?
But that's not.
But
that's not instinctive.
You're contradicting yourself.
No, I'm not, because you're conflating things that are social with things that are biological. Social stuff. Things that could be very, very easily rectified. Like, for instance, the ability to build wealth. The ability to build wealth just requires for someone's needs to be met to the point where they can build wealth. That's all it requires.
But if somebody who has never had, somebody who's never, okay, so we're not talking.
That means
let's look at two parallels, right? Two parallels.
Let me address that. If they've never had the ability to build wealth.
Okay, so how can these people have the same IQ? Like, you understand, IQ is a mix of.
Again. No. Okay, let's say that. Let's throw away IQ and let's say that these people are the same level of intelligence in general. right? They're the same, because not just IQ, they have the same social intelligence, they have the same emotional intelligence, they have the same ability to do. They are
okay. Then that's
capable,
a different conversation.
No, they are equally capable in every way, except that one has had the history of being able to build wealth and access to the information that means, and the other does not. All that other person needs is the opportunity to build wealth and space to do so safely.
Well, yeah, yes, in the perfect world, yes, that adds up.
But it doesn't need to be a perfect world. It just needs to be a slightly more fair one. And what I'm saying is that we don't exist in that world, which is what I was saying originally when I said we don't have any type of advantage. We are disadvantaged because we have not had the ability to do that for the past 250, 300 years. And because we haven't had the ability to do that, while other people have had the ability to do that.
But I'm not disagreeing with you.
I'm not done. Because we don't have that ability, because we haven't had that ability, that is why we would need extra work to get to where we want to be, which is where everybody else is. And that is not because we haven't been doing our fair share, or not because we haven't been pulling our weight, or not because we won't get together and sing Kumbaya around
it's because we've been expressing our energy in the wrong direction.
No, it's not. It's because we've been held back. We've only had about 50, 60, 70 years to do any of this. It's a miracle that anybody is successful, because we haven't had more than a handful of years to be successful as compared to everyone else. Everyone else has had the opportunity.
I think you're way too smart to believe that.
No,
I really do. I think you're way too smart.
We have not
you are
had
a student of history. You are a student of history. You cannot see how we got here. You cannot see how we got here.
Because we got here on boats. You didn't. We did.
No, but like as to like the level that we are as black people, where the governor of Virginia, for wearing blackface 30 years ago, could lose his job.
That's one
that is
guy.
Oh my
At
God.
the same
Come on,
time,
bro. That's one guy?
That's one guy.
Okay, let's talk about the owner of the Clippers. Remember the owner of the Clippers?
Yeah,
what was his name?
He had to call an entire group of people who worked for him niggers.
No, he did not call about.
He
Okay, you know what?
basically
First of all,
did.
and that's exactly why I fucking despise the left. Is this ability to distort? No, okay. He did not say that. Here is what he said. Okay, he said, "Look, he was talking to his girlfriend. We're talking about Donald Sterling, the owner of the Clippers.
I remember.
No, but see, here's what he said. He's like, listen, you can talk to them, you can fuck them, you can do whatever you want, just do not bring them to my game." He's a billionaire who's fucking this girl, and this girl is embarrassing him by bringing a date to a game of a team that he owns. I am so surprised that this guy did not say the N-word at least 20 times in that goddamn recording.
Every other day.
In that recording, he did not know he was being recorded.
No.
Are you not surprised that he did not say the N-word? Like, at all?
No.
At all.
First of all,
Come on, bro.
He's a practiced way.
He's an 89-year-old billionaire who grew up in like beyond Jim Crow eras. This guy lived in real racism.
I understand that, which is why he owns a slave team. All right, and that is why he owns a slave team, right? Now, when I say that he owns a slave team, I'm going to talk about pro sports for like 3 seconds, because pro sports are like the cringiest shit ever if you're a black person whose history has to do with slavery. Because what is it? It's, by and large, old white men owning a team of predominantly black men who are big, brolic, like strong, strapping type black, like physically capable black men, making them do menial tasks. Sounds a lot like slavery. Now, I'm not saying that basketball is slavery or that football is slavery. I'm just saying that on occasion it looks real familiar. And especially when you take into account the fact that how did these niggas get this big? How did these niggas get this, like, these niggas, and yes, they worked out, and yes, but they didn't work out to be tall. They just and they didn't work out to have that kind of physical setup, right? They were born into, they're a result of like hundreds of years of. I can't hear you in here, actually. No, can you? Is your mic on? I can hear you. You can hear me. No, I know you can hear me because I can hear me too, but I can't hear you at all. Your mic is off.
Oh shit. Okay, here we go. All right. So let me ask you a question. If all black people in the NFL, all of them, decided to wake up tomorrow and just
not
walk away and not play.
Yeah, the whole thing
would happen?
It would collapse. It would collapse in on itself. It would become the most boring shit ever, like Major League Sports.
But why doesn't it happen? Why doesn't it happen? Why is it that
I can literally tell you why it doesn't happen. I can tell you why it doesn't happen with the NFL, why it doesn't happen with the NBA, and why it likely will not happen. Pro sports, for all its fault, is a very large part of poor black people not being poor. That is the reality of it.
So there is a bigger need that surpasses police brutality.
No,
right?
What?
No. But like, it's not, why is it that we're now walking out? If we really, if we could stand as one people and be like, "Yo, fuck this shit. We're gonna. If you're not gonna let us kneel, we're gonna walk off."
You're aware of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right?
Yes.
So basically, I'm trying to word this in a way. That's where there's a pause. I'm explaining for the people listening.
I love Maslow's pyramid of needs.
I'm trying to make sure that I can phrase this in a way that makes enough sense, right?
Right.
But Maslow's hierarchy of needs says that you need several. For anybody who's listening who doesn't know, you have to have several separate kinds of needs.
It's psychology 101. So it's a pyramid, and at the bottom of it is like it says that, you know, like it's an actual dissection of basic human needs, right? So at the bottom,
quote it because it's Maslow's hierarchy.
No. Like I remember the psychology 101.
So do I. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying for my benefit or your benefit. I'm saying if we.
I'm glad you brought it up. Right. Yeah, so at the bottom of the pyramid is such thing as food and shelter.
Physiological needs, yes.
Right. So physiological need. And on top of it is like what? Security?
Safety needs.
Safety needs, right? So before you need safety, you need to make sure that you ate.
Yes.
And before you need, and then
above, belonging.
And then there is like a sense of belonging, meaning that like, you know, you belong, like meaning that
family,
like exactly,
intimacy, community, etc.
Yes. And then at the top of the pyramid is self-actualization, right?
There's also esteem after love and belonging.
That is where most people. That is yes. And then on top of it, self-actualization. I actually believe that is like. To me, the way I define it, I call it becoming who you think you are.
100%. It's describe who you want to be. It's what it is.
Right. And
it's your best self.
Yes.
Most people talks about living your best life.
In life never really
self-actualize.
Get to that self-actualize.
Most people in life sit around the bottom two.
And you know what's so funny, my brother? That is actually how I define true monogamy. I feel like the only time you can really ever be faithful to a woman is when she's part of your self-actualization.
I mean, I can agree with that to a level. I don't think that you can't. I feel like to that level you could just leave. Like, I'm not gonna.
No. I'll explain to you what I mean. Like, remember we're talking. I get your logic. Remember we're talking about like Tiger Woods and Arnold Schwarzenegger and all those guys that were like remember the whole Arnold Schwarzenegger thing, and they were like, oh my God, how is it possible? Like, you were married to a Kennedy. You have to understand, like, a guy like Arnold Schwarzenegger has been nailing life for as long. Like, think about Arnold Schwarzenegger for a second. Okay, so allow me to actually break this down. Like, Dauber really put this really well. Arnold Schwarzenegger grew up in a small village in Austria, and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna become famous from lifting heavy things and pulling them down. And then he did that.
Yeah.
And then he's like, you know what? I'm gonna become a famous actor in a language I can barely speak.
Yep.
And then he did that.
He did.
And then he's like, you know what? I'm gonna become the governor of a state I can barely pronounce, California, like this.
But and the only thing that stopped him from being president is the fact that he can't. And matter of fact, what they need to do is figure out how to get Arnold Schwarzenegger into public office as president, because really the only way to combat a reality show president is with a reality show candidate.
But what people chose to focus on was the fact that he had an affair with his maid. But see, here's the thing that I really do truly believe that somehow people always seem to fault me for. You are only as faithful as your options. If as a man you live under constant, like, bro, you and I, listen, you and I are normal dudes, right? Like, if we're gonna fuck, we have to actually put in work. If you could walk out of the house and women just want to fuck you for a come up, listen, we all have girls, right? Like, whatever, be honest.
All I'm saying is this. I'm saying it like this. It's not for me, because, and this is something that I consider a lot because I'm a musician, right? And this is something that, as I get on in music, this is a thing that is going to be not a conceptual. It's not going to be a philosophical thing for me. It's going to be very real. This is how I go about my day. So, in my mind, it is not enough to be as faithful as your options, because when your options change, you will become less faithful. I believe that if you're going to be faithful and you're going to be monogamous, if that's what you're going to be, if you're not going to be monogamous, then skip this whole part of the podcast. It doesn't matter. It's not your, be polyamorous. Do whatever you feel like doing. You can be an ain't shit nigga if you want to.
You know what you sound like? You sound like those niggas who are like, yo, money doesn't buy happiness. You know when I say to them, fuck you, I want to find out for myself.
Well, here's the thing. What I'm saying is, if you're out here and you're going to be in a monogamous relationship, right? You're out here like, hey, being a monogamous person is what I want to do. It's what I set out to do. It's what I agreed to do with this other person. No, you're pretending like you have a choice. No. Yes,
you're being monogamous because you want some constant pussy. That's exact.
So you're saying
that's not true.
Look. Okay. What I'm saying is,
let me elaborate on my point.
I'll drag my own point. I'll drag my own.
No, because my girlfriend is gonna listen to this, so I need to elaborate on this.
I'll say my own point first, though, right? So, like, I'll use my own example. I lost my virginity outside of a relationship. 90% of the sex I've had has been outside of a relationship. Most of the sex I've had, or most of the sexual partners I've had, I haven't had to have sex with them multiple times. If I didn't feel like it, it was like that's how it goes.
But you're addressing apples and oranges. Here's the point that I'm making.
What I'm saying is, what
if you could walk out of here right now and walk into the STC, and 90% of every woman that you run into looks at you is like, oh my God, that's Aaron. I will suck your dick in front of my grandmother right now. Just point where. Can you imagine living under that kind of pressure? Like, just trying to think it through.
This is literally what I have. And again, this is an exercise.
But I feel like you're dismissing it.
No, I'm not dismissing it. I am not. And I'm not dismissing it, nor am I discounting that it's a real thing and it's a real amount of pressure. But it's pressure that you do not have to succumb to.
You're saying that from your position. See, you know what it takes? It takes one bad fight. Your wife comes out to you, she's like, motherfucker, why do you always leave your socks on the bathroom floor? Fuck you. And then you guys get into an engagement. Like, have you ever noticed how, like, the women that Tiger Woods was fucking, or they were Starbucks baristas, these were bitches in his neighborhood. That's why this motherfucker got caught. Like,
what I'm saying is, it was people who were, it was convenience, right? And what I'm saying,
but how does that happen?
But it happens because it can happen. But that's not to say that it
for
should
him,
happen.
not for us.
Hey,
listen, not yet. But see, listen.
What I'm saying is,
you know, there's a difference. There's a difference between being famous and being famous and having it publicly noted. Let me ask you a question. Okay, let me ask you a question. I actually want to hear your answer to this.
Okay.
If Justin Bieber and the guy who invented the internet both walk into a nightclub, who do you think is gonna get more pussy?
Obviously, Justin Bieber.
Why is that? Is Justin Bieber richer than the guy who invented the internet?
No, of course not. But it's not about riches.
But why is that?
It's about being known.
Exactly.
But here's the thing: what I'm saying is this, beyond being known, it's not.
So you can't be reasonable about this. This is not something that you cannot use logic about. Like, logic does not apply to this. This is normal human nature.
But what I'm saying is, even as human, again, I maintain, and most of what I say and most of what I believe is based upon the fact that just because it is human nature does not mean that I have to succumb to it.
Okay, so who will provide better, Justin Bieber or the guy who invented the internet?
Obviously, the internet nigga.
So how is it possible?
That being said, are you losing if you go with Justin Bieber? No, you're gonna be provided for the same way if that's what you're worried about. If you're worried about being provided for, you can fuck anybody out of those two.
All scales. Like, let's say we're living.
Also, you're probably gonna have a better time with Justin Bieber.
What? Okay, that is beside the point. The point that I'm trying to make is this. If it wasn't for the guy who invented the internet, Justin Bieber would not be there. But somehow, because Justin Bieber is famous and it's publicly noted, he lives under a different type of pressure. Do you understand? Because see, we it's comfortable for us to talk about this, and it's like, you know what I mean. Like, it's just, but when you're living under that kind of like, every day when you walk out of your house, there is at least 90 women who are like, bruh. Like,
but you can still scale that back though, because like, let's say for instance, like, you don't have 90 women, right? You might not have 90 women every day, but you might have 2 women every day, other than your girlfriend, who are out here trying to hit you up every now and then. You kind of cute. Oh my gosh, you still with your girl? Okay, bye. That kind of person, right? You still have those relationships. You still pick your girl, a lie?
Of course. You know why I'm not disagreeing with you though? It's because if your girl is part of your self-actualization, here is how we explain it. Here is how we explain it, right?
But if she's not, what I'm saying is, if she's not, then leave her.
No, listen. If you're standing at the top of a 30-story building, right, and you kind of look over the ledge, and there is that thing. If you don't feel that same thing when it comes to cheating on your woman, then it will never happen. It has to be beyond your existential needs, because see, as men, for 12,000 years before the advancement of monogamy, we were programmed to believe that the more women you have, the more of a man you are. And then you turn into 29, like you fast forward 2,000 years ago with the advancement of the church, because you know how monogamy came about? Monogamy came about because for 12,000 years we were a polygynous society. And then suddenly, weaker men who could not get women because all the women were willing to be the 5th wife to a stronger man started migrating away. And then rich men realized, they're like, wait a minute, there is nobody left to pay taxes or fight the wars. Holy fuck, this is a problem. And then they created this thing called monogamy. 1 woman, 1 man. And then they put it in this little package that says this is what Jesus wants you to do, and then they sold it to you.
But the Bible didn't really mention a lot
they
of
never
monogamy,
did. But see, here's the thing though: you have 12,000 years of evolution fighting against
2,000 years,
right?
Of course. No, so I'm not saying that.
So as a man, you'll be like, yes, I want to be monogamous, but some way, somehow, there is this thing inside of you that says, holy fuck, I can fuck 80% of everything that I run into. The only thing that changes it is if the woman that you're with is part of your self-actualization, because there is the one thing that matters more than anything else. If you think like, yo, my woman is beyond my evolutionary needs, and very few times do we ever meet that girl.
But what I'm saying is, if that's not the case, because that's not to say that if that person doesn't meet your needs, you gotta cheat on them. You could just leave. Like, for instance, let's say the person
you can't help it. That's the point that I'm making.
What I'm saying is, for instance, the person who I was dating before my girl, right? Let's say that she was not meeting, like, she wasn't all the way there. She wasn't my self-actualization, right? Which is true. She was not. I broke up with her. I didn't just cheat on her with my girl because I was like, oh, my girl meets all my needs. My girl sets me up. Like, that's what I need. So I started, like, sleeping with her, and I still had old girl chilling, thinking everything was cool. No, I broke up with her. I'm not saying that you
Did you have an option?
Yes.
Did you have the option?
Yes. I did, because I didn't have to disclose any of that information. I am not the kind of person who's usually on Facebook or on any kind of social media saying, no, this is my girl, showing pictures every 3 seconds and Facebook relationship status, all that stuff. You have to come to me to know that information from me. Which means that if you came to me and I lied, you don't have that information. I can say whatever I want. You will operate, or whoever I'm talking to will operate under the understanding that I've given them, which is that I don't have a girl, and I have a girl the whole while. That's what niggas do all the time. We know this is true. What I'm saying is that if you really do believe that the person who you're with is not a part of your self-actualization, then why? Then why are you still with him?
Let me give you like something very similar to what you just said to me, but on a different aspect, on a different side of the coin.
Okay.
My girl that I'm with right now, right? When I met her, I was in a situationship. See, I'm 6'2", I'm black, I got a little money, and I'm funny. So I've always done well with women. I actually I used to be a terrible human being.
Meaning that, like, okay, a long time ago, I came across Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, and it just fucking changed my life, because it just put me in this position where I could literally just use people to my dividends and then kind of discard them without even feeling anything, like anything close to remorse about it, right? And then one day this girl walks into my office for an interview, and at first I'm like, okay, you know, it's gonna be one of these other situations where, like, you know, I'll give her a job, maybe I'll smash, who the fuck knows, this and this and that. But then I came into this position where for the first time I met somebody whose needs actually, like, I gauged my happiness by how happy she was. I had never felt that way about anyone. Like, anybody that I have ever dated before, it's like, okay, you are useful until you no longer are. I owned my first Mercedes Benz with $16 in my checking account because I got some girl to fucking sign that shit off and fucking give it to me and still make the payments. Good dick and free, goddammit, baby. You know what I'm saying? And for the longest time, I always thought, I'm like, yo, life is like that. We hunt and we eat and we die and we move on. But you know what really, when I really realized that I really love this girl, is the moment I realized that by being with her, I effortlessly want to be better. Because most of the time when you want to do better, it's you have to push towards it. Like, you have to keep trying. With her, it was like, it was almost effortless. Like, I didn't have to try. Like, I actually gained joy out of that.
Yeah.
Now, this is a clear example that great things happen to terrible people every day. You know what I'm saying? But the point that I'm trying to make is this. Most people don't run into that. My parents have been married for 32 years. For the first 20 years of their marriage, my dad was a terrible husband. Not because he was a terrible person, but because he grew up in a very rich family in Africa where a man fucked his mates. That was just the natural way of going about things. And my mom was this close to fucking divorcing him, but he had to leave the country. And when he left the country, my mom held down the fucking fort. And when they reunited in Canada, their love was different. Because my dad realized when he was nothing, this woman who stayed really for the kids, but he realized that this was something that he would never have again. So is it because he loves her really that much, or that instance in time allowed him to be able to see it?
But what I'm saying is, regardless of that instant, when you pick, and again, this rests on deciding to be monogamous. If you decide to be in a monogamous relationship, regardless of whether or not you feel that way for that person, because you don't with everybody, it's true. And like situationships or whatever, like if you're in a situation, I'm in a fling with this person, you know, or like I talk to this person, whatever. But like
situationships are still a lot of work.
No, they're a lot of work, and don't get me wrong, I've been in a few situationships, and they are still work, and you still have to maintain, you still take care of people, and you still make sure everybody's good and other stuff. Because I'm actually the opposite of you in that way with relationships. I actually, for a very long time, would pride myself on being the person who takes care of people. So like, I was the good boyfriend for the sake of being the good boyfriend. So,
but is it because you're really such a great boyfriend, or you just
exactly? It's a handful of learned traits. That's exactly what I'm getting at. What I'm saying is, if you were to look at me,
like if Rihanna wanted to suck your dick in the subway station behind this building right now, would you say no?
I would. I would genuinely do that.
But why? Is it because you're such a good person, or is it because your girl
It's because it's a combination of several things. It's because number one, there's more to life than getting my dick sucked in the back of a subway station. And also, that's a really weird time to get my dick sucked. That's a weird time. It's a weird flex. Odd choice of place to get sucked, dick sucked.
Weird flex, but okay.
I don't know why Rihanna in the subway. But what I'm saying is, there's more to it than that, and you know that there's more to it than that because you have your girl.
I know, but it's not because. But see, like, see, to me, I don't want this to go off as something that, like, some way, somehow, we are faithful men because we are special.
Well, what I'm saying, I'm not saying. No, it's not a special thing at all. What I'm saying is, it's a deliberate choice at the end of the day.
Do you never find yourself attracted to other? Like, I'll give you an example. Okay, my girl fights me about following random women with big asses on Instagram.
It be like that. I understand that. What I'm saying is that every time you don't do that, it's a conscious choice, right? It's not just like lightning struck and you didn't slide into someone's DMs and try to slide, even though you could, right? What I'm saying is it becomes at some point a conscious choice, right? Because as much as you might be like, oh no, I could lose my girl if I do this because it's wrong and she'll feel away and she's part of my self-actualization. You can still make that choice to do that thing. You can still do it. You can still cheat on your girl even if you know she's the one for you or whatever you believe. What I'm saying is,
but the issues your self-actualization, you never would. You know what? It's like jumping off the top of a 30-story building.
Jump off of buildings is what I'm saying, right? People jump off of buildings after being afraid, and people regret it on the way down.
But the statistics show there is less people that jump off of buildings than people who do.
Of
right?
course not.
So
what I'm saying is, jumping off a building is a far more finite, usually, thing than cheating. Because if you cheat and you don't get caught, then that same little oh my gosh feeling,
then she's not the one. Unless it feels
it's a pattern. You can do something until you are numb to it. Anything you can do anything until you're numb to it. There are niggas who jump out of planes because it's fun. Have you ever gone skydiving?
If you're gonna jump off the building, then she is not the. Again, this is what I'm saying. When your girl is part of your self-actualization, because see, human beings are genuinely and genetically and like on engineering, we are engineered to be we are engineered to be selfish. The one thing that we want, like, self-actualization is at the top of the pyramid.
Yeah.
Right? We are literally genetically predispositioned to always chase that. If your woman, if you don't feel like your woman is part of that point, when the right temptation comes about, you will cheat. You may not cheat because it's a random girl trying to suck your dick in the subway. You may not cheat because it's a random girl that you met in the club. But it will come a time where you meet a woman that intellectually stimulates you, and then suddenly you feel some type of way, and then boom, you do something. But when your woman is part of your self-actualization, when you go to cheat, it feels like leaning over the, like, it's an insane feeling, bro. Like,
I understand and I can relate to the feeling. But what I'm saying is that even with all of that and even with the feeling, you can still make that decision. You still physically can do it.
No, but you can't. That's the point that I'm making. You cannot. Can you jump off the top of this building right now?
I couldn't. Because I don't want to.
Exactly.
But what I'm saying is I don't want to. I'm not physically incapable of jumping
because
off the
you know what the results are. It's not because you're a special person. Because you know once you land, you are going to break every single bone in your body. So when the loss of your woman is equivalent to that, that is when you can really become faithful. Not because you're a special human being, but because you have too much to lose.
I don't think that's the right way to value a relationship. And being like, oh well, I have so much to lose.
It's the only way.
I don't agree with that. I feel like there's intrinsic value to the relationship, whether or not it were to end anyways.
Let me ask you a question. Do you believe in words like unconditional love?
Not explicitly.
You know, like, see, to me, like, unconditional love to me is an oxymoron. It's like saying things like the Oshawa Fashion Week. Like, it's just, you know what I'm saying? Or, like, see, like, your mother, right, is your...
Yeah, she doesn't know. My mother doesn't explicitly love me unconditionally.
Okay, see, my mother... Okay, so I use my mother as an example. Okay, my mother loves me to fucking death, but it's not unconditional. It's under the conditional that I am her son. If it was the same exact, if it was unconditional love, she would love me the same way that she loves the janitor that goddamn cleans her condo.
Or the janitor or she would love the janitor the same way she loves you.
Exactly. So it's not unconditional. So unconditional love is not a real thing. So every love comes with condition. For example, okay, I really like you as a human being, but it's not unconditional. I like you because you're smart. I like you because you stimulate my mind. I like you because we can have this type of conversation. Yeah, if you were a dumb nigga, this shit would not be fucking ongoing. So unconditional is never a thing.
No, and I'm not arguing that there is.
Exactly. So the point that I'm trying to make is when the condition is so high that it transcends bare bodily needs, you can't cheat.
But what I'm saying is I don't necessarily agree with that, because even if the condition is high, there are people who will do it even if it is
then it's not high enough.
No. Even if it is because there are people who are self-destructive. There are people who.
Let's take the example of Jay-Z, right? Like everybody's like, "Oh my God, how can you cheat on Beyonce?" Who would you cheat on Beyonce with, right?
Well, that's the thing. Well, I think we also need to look at why niggas cheat as well when we look at stuff like that, because I feel like we're like making it the kind of thing that is so much more like we're romanticizing it almost in a way where we make it like, you know, when you are, and that's why I'm against the idea of, you know, when it's the one you can't cheat on her, because you can always cheat on her. You can literally have Beyonce and cheat on her with some random girl.
But see, the problem is like smart guys like you says word like romanticizing it. That's not true. You cheat because evolution has programmed you to fuck 80% of anything that you run into. Because it's true. Because see, nature and nurture, right? We live in a world now where in order for you to fit in, you have to be monogamous, right? So
in most situations,
yes. But see, then you have this limbic brain, this lizard brain that doesn't give a fuck about what it is that you're going through. All he wants is for you to spread your fucking genes and die and fuck off. And it does not care about what your reality is. It does not care about who your wife is. It just wants you to fuck as long as you're alive.
Yeah, but
and then you have to kind of like
we being a human in 2019 is always, and being a human really since civilization started has been about regulating that.
Yeah.
And yes, we've only been regulating that for about 5,000 or 6,000 years out of the possible amount that we could have been. But we have been regulating it, and we have proved to be able to with at least reasonable success.
Have we though?
Yes, 100%. We have, because we do semblances of the thing, but we do shadows of the things we used to do. Right? You'll cheat on
because it helps. It helps you spreading your genes.
What I'm saying is that beyond that, it is just it's a base level instinct, right? We have instincts beyond. We have needs and feelings beyond our base level instincts, which is what
self-actualization.
Exactly.
Which is beyond.
No. But what I'm saying is, before you get to self-actualization, because what we need to realize is that sex is a base need. It's a physiological need. It's the bottom rung. It's not above.
It's the one thing that feels better than anything else in this world.
I mean, it depends on
if I offered you $50 million and 29 Ferraris, but I told you that you can never have sex any time ever in your life, what would you say?
$50 million is not enough.
Okay, fine. $300 million, $4 billion. 20 Ferraris, 20 mansions, and you can never have sex a day in your life ever again. Would you take that deal?
I wouldn't. Because
why is that?
Well, the reason I wouldn't, I'll explain why I wouldn't, is because I don't have any kids. I want kids. I want biological children because, again, base need, right?
So you get
base
it.
Need.
So you get it.
What I'm saying is that's on a base level, right? That's not, and that's not a part that doesn't line up with any of my other needs. It doesn't line up with the things that will allow me to self-actualize. Because being self-actualized for me, because shit. If you give me $4 billion, I can still marry my girl. I can still live the rest of my life with my girl. I can do all of that stuff. That doesn't change. I can't have sex with her, but I can do everything else that makes our relationship valuable.
Okay.
That doesn't change. I can still adopt children. I can still do all of
these
things.
But you still can't fuck. I'm sorry. It's not the same thing.
But what I'm saying is that a part of the self-actualization for me is, at least at this point, is having biological children.
So you get what I'm saying.
So
you were willing to sacrifice all the pussy in the world for that thing. See,
but what I'm saying is that it's a choice to do that.
No, most people don't have that. See, this is the thing that you don't realize. See, you have that thing where you're like, okay, you did the math, right? You're like, you know what?
Well, yeah,
the need for me to have to grow, like my idea of self-actualization is to be able to be with this woman and have children and grow a family. See, the one thing that you don't realize, most people have no fucking idea what their self-actualization is. And
well, of course, because it's the top of the pyramid. And we need to remember that most people are running around the bottom three. Most people are running around either physiological needs, safety needs, or at best romantic, like community and romantic.
So you understand needs. Why 50% of marriages end in divorce, because you're not even at that point. Like you're just at the bottom of the rung.
Hit the third. Well, you hit the third.
So is it because men are dogs, or is it because our circumstances has set us up to be that way?
Well, I'm gonna say both, because the circumstances set us up to be.
You almost agreed with me. You almost.
I'm not disagreeing with that, because I'm not saying, because it's a very cause and effect kind of thing, right? Like it doesn't just, and this is the same thing I've been saying with whatever we've been talking about.
Right.
It doesn't exist in a vacuum. None of this stuff exists in a vacuum.
But it does.
It doesn't. It doesn't exist in a vacuum, because nothing exists in a vacuum. Everything interacts with everything, which is why we can say we have 250,000 years of evolution that has brought the modern human to how we are right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we're fighting 250,000 years of evolution with 4,000 years, 5,000, 6,000
Christianity,
years I'm not even talking Christianity. I'm talking civilization in general.
No, if we're talking about monogamy specifically,
I'm talking about. It's a 2,000-year-old concept. I was going to broaden it a little bit and say that everything we do right now, everything that we have done as people that has gone against our original.
So I guess you're saying we're no longer out of the since we're out of the food chain, since nothing is trying to eat us.
As soon as we climbed out of the food chain,
right,
which only happened about 12,000 years ago, 13,000 years ago, right, relative to 250,000.
But see, now imagine like all those evolutionary concepts
and again,
that were put through.
Arguing,
what's happening to them now? Because we have them now.
No, I'm not
what is happening to them now?
But don't forget, they get diluted the same way everything else gets diluted. The same way if you married a white woman, you would have a mixed baby, and if that mixed baby married a white woman, he would have an even fairer skinned baby, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can these things get diluted as they are not used, because that is how evolution works.
Where we are right now,
natural selection,
and like where we are right now in the timeline, do you think we have transcended all those things?
I am not saying that we have transcended,
and
but
that's exactly why the conversation. No. But see, and that's the problem. Is like, and again, I'm not gonna. You told me you're far on the left. So, and that is exactly what I mean by like, we have this thing where we see what we can be and try to behave as what we can be, but we live with the circumstances of what we are.
Well,
and that's really what I mean. But like, we need to deal with the circumstances of what we are and act accordingly.
But again, the problem is the circumstances of where we are not an excuse.
It's not the best that we can be. I know there is a best that we can be down the line, but the circumstances that we're dealing with are dictated by who we are right here, right now. I'll give you an example, okay? I have this theory, right? Like when we talk about like male attractiveness, right? Like right now, and in the greater sphere of things, an attractive man is like, like the muscular, tall, like that is because that's the hunter, the fucking, provider, I have this theory that like let's say 500 years from now, the new idea of the attractive man will be the short, balding Jewish guy with
half a second. One second. Give me.
No worries. I'm just gonna take it.
Well, we can change that.
Yeah, but like, we can change it. But like, I have this idea that like the new attractive man is gonna be the short, balding Jewish guy who is running, because that's the new provider. That's the new provider.
I can even stop you before we get to that, because think about how people are perceived as attractive right now and how that changes every handful of years. Because for instance, you can look at 400,000, you can look at 200,000 plus years of evolution saying you want this big, muscular, burly, hairy.
But why is that? Why is that? Because he can hunt, he can kill, he can feed.
Yes, but that's 250,000 years of that. But yet, a year of watching MTV will have you wanting some tiny, scrawny, hairless white boy like Justin Bieber.
Yes. But why is that? Because he can provide. Again, it's the money. It's not because Justin Bieber is only as attractive as what he can.
People would want to be with Justin Bieber anyway, because people stay with people because they look like people all the time. But what I'm saying, here's
do you
what I'm
think
saying.
Justin Bieber, if it was not Justin Bieber, he'd be pulling the same kind of pussy that he's pulling right now?
Okay,
if he was not Justin Bieber,
relative to himself, yes.
Are you kidding me? Do you think Justin Bieber will be fucking the same amount of girls?
No. I didn't say. I said relative. So if you were to say Justin Bieber right now is 1-to-1, right? He would still be 1-to-1. His 1-to-1 would be like, I meet 90,000 girls, 90,000 girls want me. I meet 3,000 girls, 3,000 girls want me. I meet 20 girls, 20 girls want me.
I disagree.
No. Because if
Justin Bieber was some little kid from Brantford, Ontario, as he was right now, and he's going to fucking, I don't know, what's a great club in Toronto? He's going to EFS tonight. And he was not Justin Bieber. He was just some kid from Brampton. He will be able to pull the same amount of girls that Justin Bieber will pull right now.
I didn't say the same amount.
So let's not.
He would do proportionally as well.
That's an intellectually dishonest.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Because it's the same thing that I applied to myself. Right now, how well I do for myself in that sector of life is probably about as well as I would do.
You are very wrong. Let me tell you something.
Again,
if every girl that you meet, if every girl that you run into knew that you had $50 million in your bank account, they would approach you completely differently, because now you are elect. It's not that you just want to fuck you.
But we're not.
It's like there is a possibility. No, that's always what it is.
No. Because we're not talking about. We were talking about perceiving attractiveness.
No. Look. 15,000 years ago, why was it that the big guy was attractive? It's because women could look at him and be like, "Oh, that guy could hunt."
But again,
that guy can hunt and he can kill.
Don't forget, you are discounting the potency of society and the way that social norms interact with things. Because again, we've been fighting 250,000 years worth of evolution with 6,000 years of society, and frankly speaking, we've been doing a damn good job of it.
Yes, of course.
And
a change is happening, but where we are on the timeline.
But what I'm saying is that where we are on the timeline, given how much time it took for us to get to the point where we were at, the amount of time it took for us to reverse that, or to navigate away from that direction into the direction that we're headed at, where we are no longer hunter-gatherers, we are no longer all of these things, right? It happened effectively overnight in the history of how long.
But again, see, it has not happened because I know. Listen.
Again, we're talking about, you start modern humans, right? Modern humans back 250,000 years ago.
Modern humans, we're talking about Homo sapiens.
Sapiens, yes. Right. 250,000 years ago, with a certain amount of stuff that they were passing on, that had been passed on to them from the last genus.
No, you are watering down.
No,
okay,
I'm not.
listen.
Again,
this was a time. Okay. Let me give you an example.
Let me finish my point though.
All right,
what I'm saying is,
right.
If you take that length of time, literally from like the beginning of our species until 12,000 years ago, the disparity of time between that and now, between the beginning of our species and right now, is overnight as compared to how long our species has existed.
Let me give you an example. Okay, 3 years ago, I went on a date with. This was like one of my most formative moments in my life. Right, I go on a date with this girl, and as we are on a date, we're talking, whatever, and she makes a point. She's like, you know what? I want to meet a man who is going to take care of me, and who is going to be able to provide for me, and I'm going to be able to give him children and take care of his home and and this and this and this and that, right? And then in my head, see, I'm one of those people who I'm always looking to try people's belief systems, right? I'm just kind of like, let me see how hard you really believe what you're saying. So as we're on that date, I'm like, oh, you know what? Okay, that's cool, but I'm actually more attractive to women who I can build something with. I'm looking for women who are willing to get in the trenches with me. Immediately, she's like, oh yeah, no, like, I would love to like build a business with my man and do all this type of things. Now, why is it that she made that other statement? I'll tell you why. It's not because she did not believe what she said before. She really believed it from the bottom of her heart, right? That's what she's evolutionarily programmed to want to believe. But guess what? In 2019 now, she lives in a world where you now got boss bitches. See, as a woman now, if you're not independent and if you're not getting your own, you looked at not only as weak by your society, but mainly by other women. Right? But here is the problem. No, hold on. Let me finish. But here is the problem. Rewind to 1950. If she had made that same exact comment in 1950 in front of other women, they would have looked at her as like, what? You're crazy? You don't need a husband? You don't need anything? Well, and see, here's the thing. Hold on. Let me finish. Okay? See, my thing is this. We need to stop believing that some way, somehow, change happens by accident. How did women, hold on, let me finish. How did women become these women that want to be like super independent, burn my bra, and so on and so forth? Hold on. Allow me to finish.
Because you have
I haven't. Here's the point. I'm finishing. Here's the point that I'm trying to make. Okay, the way change happened. Okay, this free liberation of women happened post World War II. Prior to World War II, right?
I know, yeah.
Like, I'll give you an example, okay? There was a time where you could never take a woman on a first date unless you shook her father's hand, right? Then fast forward to a time where every man is dragged to war, and then now women in mass numbers are dragged into the workforce. Guess what? Now they look back and they're like, you know what? We don't need fucking men to provide for us anymore. Right?
Yeah,
now you have this sexual liberation moment happening. Now, as a man, prior to this, in order for me to get laid, I had to have land, I had to be prepared, and I had to be ready for marriage. Now women are fucking out of spite. Right? But now you're going to sit there and be like, okay, you know what? It's much more complicated than that.
No, I'm not. What I'm saying is that you're arguing my point. You're arguing that everything you just said argues that society is at least as powerful as evolution, because what you're saying is that we can change the tide of how people react biologically by changing the stimulus around them, and it can change in real time.
But the point that I was making is when society and evolution collide, that's when people feel like, oh, I'm stuck. I don't know what the hell is going on.
But here's the thing: when they collide, society tends to win out because people have evolved, and it's really ironic.
But are people happier when society wins?
But here's the thing. Usually, yes, because that's how society works. Society is the collect. And when I say society, I'm not talking about any specific society. I'm not talking about Western civilization.
You mean the collective?
I mean the collective of humans that exist contemporarily on the earth. All of us, when we do a thing and it is accepted by all of us, it goes well. For us, at least as far as we can perceive it. And when we realize that it's not working, we switch to something
monogamy
else.
as a societal concept works. Absolutely. I believe in it. Because it allows for control.
But what I'm saying,
you have this thing in you that fights it all the time. And when it fails, all I'm saying is like when the system fails, let's allow ourselves to be able to look at it in an intellectually honest manner. We're like, okay, what happened? What went wrong? Why is it that 50% of marriages end in divorce? Why is that? It's because society can never fight evolution.
It does every day. It
does. But it's like a 12-year-old fighting a 2-year-old.
But again,
it's who's going to win? Who wins?
But that's the joke. It's not just a 12-year-old fighting a 2-year-old. It's like a 12-year-old fighting like a genius 7-year-old with a gun. That's what it is. Society
That's deep. I love that. That's
society will eventually beat evolution. I believe that very wholeheartedly, because I believe that eventually humans will realize that we are more than what we have been.
See,
and when we realize
I don't believe that. 10,000 years from now, when information is now available at the blink of an eye, like you don't even need to go on a computer to Google things.
Now.
And then see, at that time, like, see, evolution will also have progressed. Now we live, imagine when you live in a society where information is available at the blink of an eye, but we are even more divided than we are now. What is that going to do? Is that going to make it better, or is it just the same game, different board?
But here's the thing. That presupposes, matter of fact, that it presupposes the way that we're going to evolve, which we couldn't really guess in the first place. Humans
we can no.
Have
what do you mean? We just talked about foresight the whole entire time. Like, we get our ability to be like, that's what makes the human being the top of the food chain. Is the ability.
I'm saying is that humans that as we exist right now are better than what we can be better than what we are.
Always, you will always go that way.
That our biology does not necessarily have to be of the type where it'll be any kind of substantial difference.
Oh God, yes, it does.
Well, not in 10,000 years if we haven't changed in 250. We are anatomically almost the same as 250,000 years
anatomically.
ago.
It's the ability.
What we're talking about is anatomically, right? We're talking about, if you're talking about evolution, you're talking about us
here's
changing.
what I'm talking about mental maps, right? Because see, here's the thing. To me, when I dissect a human being, right? When I dissect a human being, you have something called your limbic brain. That's your lizard brain, right? So that thing is like it's like a tape recorder. It just records every single experience that you go through, and then it creates these mental maps that you have to be able to compare the world to. I'll give you an example, okay? Somebody who grew up in Tennessee in the 60s, and you were not racist. You were called a nigger lover. So in order for you to survive, even if you loved black people, but in order for you to survive in the society that you lived in, you had to somehow show some sort of hatred towards black people in order for you to be able to survive the environment that you're in. You get it?
But here's the thing. Here's my problem with the limbic brain argument, right? Now, yes, we do have this part of our brain. Yes, it does do that. But we also have access to the information of other people and other people's experiences, which means that I do not have to rely on my scenarios and my situations and what I saw and what I have experienced. I can rely on information that exists outside of myself, which is why we can be more than what we are right now, because all we have to do is rely on a greater wealth of information. If
do you truly believe that when we're talking 100%. About Russian hackers?
Yes.
Like being able to isolate, when we, because see, you think information has delivered us? If anything, social media and the access to so much information has made us bigger slaves than ever. Because now,
I disagree,
bro. When you go on YouTube right now, okay, I can guarantee you that you and I have similar maybe interests or so per se. So I could say that we see the same ads or so per se,
more
right?
Or less.
Have you ever tried to log into somebody else's Netflix and try to see what it offers?
Because algorithm, if you computers
whatever you
on algorithms, they take what information you want and
I used to Netflix and chill with girls, and then I would just log into their shit and be like, why is it that only reality TV show is coming up? I'm out of here. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just, so you understand, like, access to information did not free you.
No.
If anything, it enclosed you more.
I disagree. Here's the thing. Access to information is freeing, because information is freeing.
Wi-Fi is free. Information is not free. You get.
No. I'm not saying information is free. I said information is freeing. Right? Information will cause you to be free eventually.
How can you say that knowing what happened in the last American elections? How can you genuinely
because that's misinformation. It's information being manipulated. If you can manipulate information to control people, then you can manipulate information to your own ends.
People manipulated the Bible to control people. Do you think we're getting better as we go?
What I'm saying is, as you get information, as you get access to information, and the reason that people were able to manipulate the Bible is because, frankly speaking, for most of the time, people couldn't read. Reading became a thing like 300 years ago for the majority of the world. It was like a handful of people who could read up until 1600s. So what I'm saying is, as you get access to information, you get more people who are able to think more critically about more issues. The more you get that, eventually, inevitably, you get solutions to problems that already exist. You get solutions that no one would have thought of because the people who have information have different brains. You have it's a thing that's incredible, and it sounds maybe a little optimistic. It might sound a little bit naive, but really what it is that if you, it's the same logic as the 1,000 monkeys, 1,000 typewriters thing. Eventually, if by sheer dumb luck we will stumble upon a better way at some point, because that is what we have done historically. Otherwise, we would still be hunters and gatherers. The fact that we continually find even slightly better ways to exist.
But see, you think we're looking? We're not looking for as a species. We are not like listen.
No.
As a species, we're not looking.
As a species, we are. As a species, we do not. As individuals. And that's the difference.
That's a good. Okay. You're right. Okay.
We are not looking for the better way. As individuals, we are out here
but
trying.
Society is run by individuals.
No. But,
like it is.
But don't forget, there's also what's the word called? I can't remember what the word is, but it's basically that you're more than the sum of your parts. Right? I forget what it is, but you're more than the sum of your. Society is more than the sum of its parts. Even though we are a collective.
Is it though?
Yes, because
it hasn't proved itself to be that.
It absolutely has.
When?
It's the same, because it's what is it called? Rising complexity. That's what it's called. It's called rising complexity. Rising complexity is when you have several single-celled organisms that combine and make a more complex life form. It's when you have a series of life forms that come together and they make a pack, and you have a pack that comes together and it makes a tribe. And you have.
Do you feel like that's what's happening right now, though, bro?
Well, it's what has happened historically for thousands and thousands and millions and millions and billions of years. That's what has happened. It's been rising complexity ever since the Big Bang, ever since there was a
but
particle.
Is it for the greater good of the species or the greater good of a certain set of individuals?
No, I believe that.
Allow
here's the thing. I believe that at some point it becomes for the species. I don't believe that the individuals have the species in mind.
Okay.
Individuals.
Let me give you an example. Okay, so let's talk about like religion, for example, right?
Hear me for a second, though, right? Even with religion, right? Whether or not you believe religion, I actually am Christian. My dad's actually a pastor. I'm still a practicing Christian. Whether or not you believe Christianity, whether or not you believe in any religion, even if you believe in religions as things that were instituted to control the masses, they were done to control the masses because the masses were wilding.
It had to
be done,
and that is the point that I'm trying to make.
Did it benefit a handful of specific people? Yes, the people who instituted these institutions, right? But at the same time, while it did benefit those people, it benefit the majority. Yes, because now there were people who were out here not killing.
But see, where does the problem happen though? But see, you're saying this as an intellectually. But here's the thing though. Somebody in Fallujah, right? Somebody in Fallujah sitting in a congregation in front of the Mullah Omar. Okay, and they do not have access to the same amount of information. Because see, here's the thing. Okay, I'll give you an example. I was having this conversation with I had to give like a testimony to the cops one day because I was at a strip club and I was there and the shooting happened. I had to fuck the police all day from the underground. But here is the point. And I'm standing with this dude. I'll never forget this conversation. And he's trying to convince me, just the same way that the Bible does, that anybody who does not believe in Jesus Christ is fully and utterly damned to an eternity of like in hell. And then I'm just kind of like, wait a minute. So you're benevolent, all loving, all knowing God decided to take half of the planet and put it in a hemisphere where they will never hear about him.
And that's
right. Hold on.
Into theology.
Hold on. Let me finish. Right.
Yeah,
and this is like think about Jainists who live in Southeast India, right? They have never met white Jesus a day in their life. Okay,
people who
let's
won't have
not
the
pretend. Let's not pretend like you and
Well, that's the
I,
thing. No,
you and I, like you know what I'm saying. Like we came across white Jesus
Yeah,
because
because
white
of-
people came about
yeah.
with guns. Like
Yeah, basically. That's
like,
it. That's
you know,
why.
you know what I mean. So like this is this God, this all loving, this all knowing, this all benevolent God of yours
allowed for these
allowed for
circumstances.
these people to literally like almost over half of the planet.
Well, yeah.
Right?
Well, here's
So
the thing.
how do you
How do you
reconcile that? Like it's
and
just
that's
like
the
to
thing.
me.
That is probably one of like the biggest questions in Christianity, because Christianity very much believes that like one of the 10 years of Christianity is that there has to be an opportunity for you to connect to God.
Mm-hmm.
So like the amount, like the responsibility of you to like accept Jesus or not accept Jesus exists after you have encountered that information. But again, it comes back to information. The same as any ideology, the same as any thought process, the same as anything.
But is it their fault? Is it their fault that they had never had access to that information?
It's not your fault if you never had access to it. And again, I don't have the answers as to what happens with that. I don't know that part of it.
And see, that's what makes you a weak believer. Because
here's the thing.
Talibans
Well, no,
believe the text by the book.
Here's the thing.
And that's what I mean. And that's what I mean by faith influences behavior.
But here's the thing. They believe it by the book, but they believe it by the book with a specific interpretation. And especially when you're talking about any holy book.
There is no specific interpretation to the
no,
Talibans.
no.
The Talibans believe it like there is several parts of the Quran that clearly state that infidels must be.
But here's the thing. I have friends who are Muslim,
right,
who believe Islam, who also interpret that section as the holy war being a spiritual thing.
And those are the guys that die in the Starbucks, because the Talibans believe those people are just as weak as the non-believers.
But here's the problem. But here's the thing. The same thing can be applied to Christians.
Yeah.
Because if you were to go back 500, 1,000, not quite 1,000, 800 years to the Crusades, it would have been the same thing.
Exactly.
It's the same logic. It's the same. Well, if you're not the same again, if you're not saved. If you're not if you don't believe in Jesus, etc., you're not a Christian.
So shall we agree that this whole thing is just a fucking fallacy at this point?
Well, no, I don't agree
right?
that. I
Why
say
don't
that
you
there
agree?
is, because I believe that there has to be some level of grace to it. I believe that in order for God to be benevolent and all-knowing and all-seeing the way that we believe that he is, if you believe in God, then that you believe that he.
You're saying that humans can only be good if they believe.
I'm not saying. No. That's not my point. I'm saying that if we believe all of these things to be true, right? If we believe that God is benevolent, but we also consolidate that information with the information of, hey, there are people who might never get the opportunity to hear about God in general, so they would never get that information.
But God doesn't say that. The book doesn't say that. You don't get to change the book according to.
No, I'm not changing the book, but I'm taking things that are said in the book. There are things in the book that are said that say things like God is merciful, God is reasonable, God does these. There are several different passages.
But he's also a jealous being.
Yes, there's all of that as well. Right. That is very true.
That's a human emotion. So how do you reconcile that?
Again, it is also personified. Remember, a lot of when we talk about any type of spiritual being in any holy book, especially when we're talking about God, we're talking usually about a spirit that exists outside of our actual physical realm of understanding.
But see, to me, I cannot engage. See, look.
Well, that's the thing.
See, to me, I don't believe you should believe anything on insufficient evidence.
Well,
everything that you're saying to me right now.
But at the same time,
like,
insufficient evidence is something that we encounter every day, and we suspend disbelief.
No, you should not. Look. Let me give you an example. Okay, I grew up as a Catholic, right?
Otherwise, I don't have any evidence of.
Listen,
if I never meet a Russian person,
I grew up as a Catholic, right? I grew up as a Catholic for many years. I went to mass, and every Sunday, the priest will bring out a pizza cracker and say that this is the body of a first century carpenter, and by eating it, we now become into peace with them. If I take a stack of pancakes and I call it the body of Elvis Presley, everybody's gonna be like, "Oh my God, Robert is drinking again." You see what I'm saying?
At the same
like, it's just
time,
like,
though,
to me, like, no. Like, listen, like, the only way that we get to evolve as a people is to shed our old skin. Look, let's have this conversation the way it's meant to have. We believe in a higher power because we need, as humans, to know what happens when we die. We just need it. We just need some sort of answer.
Beyond that, even without that, it was a lot of the believing in higher powers and things like that. Even before monotheistic religions came around, it was a lot of it was.
Do you think dogs believe in God?
For other things,
dogs are not conscious of their own mortality. Like, you know what I'm saying? When the moment you become conscious of your own mortality is the moment you need to justify what happens, because we cannot sustain it. So the moment we start having an intellectually honest conversation as to what is happening. See, if we're talking about the conflict in the Middle East and we're like, okay, guys, what's really happening here? Okay? You believe that me coming to your land and being a piece of shit is an offense to your God, and that is why you were literally taking such drastic measures to be able to do this. I get it. How about I stop being a piece of shit? And then you stop looking at me. Because remember what we were talking about earlier? We're like, yo, the only way that you guarantee peace on earth is if we get invaded by an extraterrestrial force, because at that point, all this shit will not fucking matter. We need to look at each other and be like, yo, we are geared to fight anything that we do not know. Fight against the other. Evolution has geared us to be able to do this.
Yeah.
In order for us to be able to live and transcend this, we need to stop pretending like that's not a real thing.
No,
racism. Okay, listen. Racism, to me, like, I'm going to tell you something personal about me. I don't believe in racism from anybody who does not affect my check. For example, if I'm walking down the street and somebody's like, you goddamn fucking nigger, you are an ignorant motherfucker. You're not racist.
But that's not all that racism is, though, and it goes far beyond that.
Do you know why racism that is? Because I'll tell you what that is. Racism is the power that you give the person in front of you. Because it's true.
Racism is not a power given, it's a power that's been taken. Racism is not somebody calling you a nigger. Racism is the fact that Rwanda was given its independence in 1960s. Mm-hmm. That's racism. How long is that country? How long have those people lived there? How long have they been there? They were run by white countries. Mm-hmm. Two white countries benefit for 300 years in some cases.
But we're in 2019 now. What do we do now?
Racism is that. Racism is
do you know why
infrastructure.
Do you know why Rwanda is the Dubai of Africa? It's because Paul Kagame, who is the president, he's been the president for 20 some odd years now. Like, in Africa, like, it's just like the motherfucker with the biggest guns just runs the show. That's just the fact that it is.
That's
right.
England and Britain and Germany and France.
I'll give you an example, right? My dad is one of those people who's super anti-Kagame, because my dad is Hutu, my mom is Tutsi. Right? Okay. My dad comes from those old families back home that were in power, like, back then, right? And he's one of those people who's like, you know what, the fuck this God, you know, when we get him, we're gonna get him. Like, I'm like, kind of like, yo, what better would you do for the country than he actually had? Yes, he rules the country by force, but here is the matter of fact. North American democracy is not for everybody. I know my people. My people cannot be ruled according to rules of democracy. That's just not it. It's not for us. Yeah. North American democracy is 400 years old. Our shit is 40 years old. Let me tell you something. The moment you show a little bit of weakness, we will fucking eat you on a plate. You understand?
Here's the thing. Again, all of that is old shit. Like, even the styles of dictatorship, those aren't any less Western than the democracy. It's all the same thing, because what do you reference if not them? Don't forget, they pretty much decimated all when when European powers came to Africa to colonize Africa, they pretty much decimated all whatever small amount of record there would have been of how things ran before.
I know.
To which end, what do you reference? Even if you're not referencing their current tools, you're referencing their old tools. And guess what we know about
I guess
their
the
old
point that I'm
tools?
saying
They're
is like
old.
stop trying to beat the system. The only way to win is to play along.
No,
you cannot beat the system. The system shall never be beaten. You can't beat it. No, see, that's nature.
But that's not true, though.
Nature, you can't beat nature.
No, that's
it's survival of the fittest. The fittest shall always survive.
The system is not nature. The system is not nature. The system is society. It is man-made. It is not natural.
I guess I'm a Darwinist.
No,
it's survival of the fittest. You cannot beat it.
Again, if that were true, then civilizations would not fall. And civilizations always do.
No, there are civilizations fall according to the needs of the system.
But
think about it this way.
No, that's not true.
How do we get a Barack Obama? Do you think we got out of a country
that's a moot point? That's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about the fact that civilizations all crumble, which means that if you are looking at that, all of those in every single one of these tools that exist for Western society, that Western society run on, are either directly or based upon things that are going to fail. Sorry, give me 1 second. Pause this for a minute. Yeah. I gotta.
Goddamn, dog, you're making some compelling points. Aaron, on that point, I think we'll close it up, man. We're 3.5 hours deep. We can go 4 days right now by the sense of it. God damn it.
That's so
you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like you and I were like brothers in a past life. We're just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we used to fight about the bison meat or some shit. You know what I mean? Dude, I really appreciate you coming by, man. I don't have words to express how deeply appreciate these conversations. Like, this shit is the type of shit that makes me come alive, and I appreciate you for coming on the show, man. Like, yo, where can people find you, man? Like, where you're
let's see. Okay, well, we mentioned this at the very, 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 very beginning, which
that was a long time ago, brother.
But I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm an R&B artist. You can find me on Instagram at DOPEUSMAXIMUS.
Say that one more time.
DOPEUSMAXIMUS. Or you can just type in Aaron Ridge. You'll probably find me.
That sounds a lot easier. The previous one sounded like a porn site or something like just. Man.
But yeah, other than that, I have a bunch of work out on Spotify and iTunes and all that fun stuff. So whatever your streaming service of choice is, you can type in Aaron Ridge. I have an EP that I released actually at the beginning of this month called Sync, and it's a 5-song EP. It's a pretty good time. Check it out if you want to. Other than that, yeah,
check it out. Goddammit, you must. Because Aaron, man, I appreciate you, bro, and I hope to have you on several times over, man. Because
I'll definitely be back. I'm definitely be back.
I love it, man. I love it. And on that note, we're out, and we said what we said. Good night.
Peace.